posted, and importantly to also get to hear from you. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela at TV47KE. Tell us what is happening around you, what you'd love for us to discuss, and also just weigh in into what it is that we'll be taking a look at. Definitely we look at the politics of the weekend, not so much in terms of activities. That is after that declaration by President Uhuru Kenyatta that political gatherings are going to be stopped. Definitely a conversation that we do not fail to have this morning, as we hope that indeed such is what will stick. Well, this also, as some people in different parts of the country went against this declaration by President Uhuru Kenyatta. I mean, this time around, the people you'd least expect, the churches, most of them are probably not observing the rules and the protocols that have been laid by the Ministry of Health to curb COVID-19. So we'll be looking at all this as we take a look at that row that is there between Kenya and Somalia, the maritime border dispute. We delve deep into understanding what are the ramifications that would follow Kenya having withdrawn from this particular case, and I mean not in totality, but then again saying for a moment that they would probably need proper arbitration in comparison to what they would be treated to earlier on. And away from it, we also take a look at just how much it is important for leaders to come out and declare their state. That is, of course, in terms of health, in terms of technically everything, knowing very well that they are, answerable to the people, especially African leaders. We've had scenarios where it's not always clear when they are ill. And I mean, most of the people would argue it is important that, some of the citizens are, told of what exactly is happening with their own leaders. This culminating from the conversations that we've had for the longest of time in regards to the health of Tanzania's leader, that is John Pombe Magufuli. We'll be discussing that as we get the view of the key leaders that understand very well what importance this would be, and equally of what importance it would be to hide this information from the people. And importantly, we also just take a look at what is expected at the by-election set for this week. That is in Machakos County senatorial by-election. Definitely we look at that and much more. We do not forget to speak about the increase in fuel prices in the country that have left many Kenyans scared, worried, and questioning just what is the interest of the government in ensuring that the people's needs are catered for at this point when the cost of living is extremely high. Karibu sana. My name is Linda_Lela. We kickstart the broadcast right now. Later on, we'll also be looking at dental care. It is very important that you ensure you get to know some of the tips that would help you ensure that your teeth is well kept, or generally your mouth is in a good shape in terms of care. So make sure that you keep it right here. And of course, keep interacting with us. It is important that you ask some of the crucial questions that you'd want to ask. The dentist will be here to give you answers as to the same. Karibu sana. Let's briefly look at what the papers have in store this morning. And yes, here we are. As we try to download them, important that we look at what has come out first. And Daily Nation speaks of still missing. I think what we have mentioned, and we say that we'll be looking at that and what it means. That is Tanzania Prime Minister cancels visit amidst concern over the Magufuli whereabouts. That is a story captured on page 10. A different one. Kenya versus Somalia, nation's next step is to protest to the UN Security Council. That is also one that we look at, a story captured at the back page of the Daily Nation. And new fuel prices shock Kenyans equally, forms the basis of our conversation this morning. And this month's increase is one of the highest in 10 years since the 2011 review. We'll be looking at that alongside the pundits that will join us this morning. And equally stressful families as a steep rise in cost of petroleum that is products announced yesterday will push up the cost of transport, electricity and manufactured goods, adding pain Kenyans already suffering from the impact of COVID-19 economy. And Jubilee fires warning shot at Ruto. Just what is this? Weeks after Jubilee's National Management Committee kicked out, that is the Deputy Secretary General Caleb Kositany, an ardent ally of Deputy President William Ruto, the party is daring anybody who feels they can't continue subscribing to the Jubilee agenda to resign. We'll also be looking at all this in regards to matters politics and what it would mean. So much is happening. Yes, indeed, the Jubilee House is not in order, has not been in order, for quite a long time now. Thousands lock out of teachers' colleges. A huge number of applicants for diploma training in primary and early childhood development education did not meet the set grade, while those who qualified will hardly fill the vacancies available in both public and private TTC. And so we'll be looking at all this as we proceed. And we ask just what will it mean for the aspect of matters education, very important in regards to that. We take a look at that also. And briefly, what has been captured on the Standard newspaper. I am not able to grab a copy of the same on the screen, but not to worry. By the time we're expounding deeply on it, we'll have gotten it. And equally on the People Daily, we'll also be having that. But then again, my team is fixing it on the screen. Let's take a look at that. That is in regards to what has been captured on the front page of the Standard newspaper. When a president goes missing from the public, that is in regards to Magufuli, the questions are still lingering as to where it is that he is. And so we discussed that extensively, just getting to understand neighboring President John Pombe Magufuli has not been seen in public for 2 weeks, sparkling speculations on his whereabouts. Well, this is not strange in a continent where, I mean, in most cases you'll find that the leaders will go missing, especially when they are having health issues, and I mean with zero information to the public, leaving them trying to speculate and trying to guess on the whereabouts of their leaders. Now, Ruto targets governors in 2022 contest. This is his strategy. Deputy President William Ruto now reaches out to select county bosses to show up his presidential bid in exchange for political appointments. That's a story captured on page 19, as you've seen right there. And equally on the other side, Orange House remained shut as staff go out there to get tested a few days after ODM leader Raila Odinga tested positive, that is for coronavirus, and the party headquarters remain closed and locked. And yes, we'll be looking at all that as we proceed. And before we get a hold of the People Daily, it is important that we take a look at what is happening on the roads. And yes, this morning, it's a Monday morning. Most of the time you'd expect it to be bad on the roads. And well, let's see. It doesn't look as ugly as you'd probably expect. Thika Road, not so bad this morning, not just yet, or so to speak. But then again, you can get some tenets of a bit of traffic here. As you can see, that is around Gumbari State. That should be Garden City down there. Proceeding to this other side, as you get to the sides of Oil Soaps, you realize that there's some tenets of traffic, but then it is moving, eases up to some bit, and then gets to this point where around driving again you get this traffic, but then again eases up going down to around Mathare Mental Hospital. Then I mean it becomes a bit heavy because of the connection from different roads. That is also coming from Muthaiga and coming from Kiambu Road. Then you find that it's a bit heavy around here going all the way to Pangani. And down as you get to the city, well, then it eases up as you get inside. This is Nairobi, Gymkhana, and different parts. Ngara, here we are. Ngara is not looking so bad this morning. So if you're taking these directions, you need not to worry. Coming down here to the Globe roundabout, I mean, in most cases, you'll find a bit of traffic here, but it actually doesn't look as bad as you'd probably expect it to look. And that means Thika Road is not as bad. Connecting us to these other parts, yes, all this is Ngara, this side of Desai Road, pretty much of an ease. Kirinyaga Road, that is within the city, is also not looking so bad this morning. Let's take a look at a different direction altogether and see whether there's cause for alarm. Within the city, it's not looking so bad. This is another different direction. Our State House Road, not looking so bad. State House, sorry. And Valley Road is also not looking ugly this morning. Down to Ngong Road, This is Ngong Road. Yes, no cause for alarm. That is to and from town. If you are taking Ngong Road, evidently it doesn't look so bad this morning, and so you need not to worry if you're taking that direction. And dropping us to a different direction altogether, this is Mombasa Road. Well, some tenets of traffic along Mombasa Road as always, which doesn't look as ugly as we are used to. This is somewhere around Imara Daima, and going down to these sides where you get to connect to the southern bypass as you proceed to town. Well, some tenets of traffic around here when you get somewhere close to South Bay. So that means you need to be careful, but then again, not so bad. And going down to the Nyayo National Stadium, evidently not looking as bad. On this other side, Lusaka Road is not looking so bad this morning. And dropping us down to this other side where you get Langata Road, which equally not bad, as you can see right here as you connect to the southern bypass, as you also connect to these other sides, that is Mbagathi Road or Mbagathi Way. You evidently can tell it does not look bad this morning. So Langata Road is no cause for alarm at all. We've looked at Ngong Road also. You realize it's not looking so bad this morning. This side of Kikomba Market, also no cause for alarm. There's not much in terms of traffic, and so you need not to worry if taking that direction. Let's take a look roughly at what else you'd expect. Parklands, Nairobi, where I am, it's looking all rosy this morning to and from town. Around Westlands also, most of the roads around Westlands not so bad this morning. So well, there's really nothing much to get us worried as such on the roads. In the event that there's something, then I'll be here to keep you posted. But importantly, to remind you that you need to be careful, stay woke. You need to use the road as expected or as dictated, so that at least we avoid these bad scenarios. I mean, accidents, remember, have been reported to be on the rise. Just that, there are very numerous untold stories out here. So make sure that you are careful when using the road. And there you go. Let's drop what is happening on the roads. I mean, briefly, this is Outer Ring Road, not looking so bad also. Manyanja, some bit of traffic there as you get to connect going down to Embakasi, this side's Airport Road, pretty much of an ease. Let's briefly look at the day's inspiration, because it's important that as we start the week, we start on an incredible note.
Life asked Death, "Why people love me and hate you?" Death said, "You are a beautiful lie, and I am a painful truth." Life asked Death, "Why people love me and hate you?" Death said, "You are a beautiful lie, and I am a painful truth." Life asked Death, "Why people love me and hate you?" Death said, "You are a beautiful lie, and I am a painful truth."
Well, now that's an incredible one, a beautiful one. I mean, sometimes it's just good to reminisce on these beautiful words, because they remind you of what you are and how important it is, or how important you are. So as we drop on the inspiration, we take a look at what my team has prepared. And now the fuel prices are up again. For the past few months, the fuel prices have been skyrocketing. The energy regulator attributing the rise in prices to the average landed cost of the commodities. But with President Uhuru Kenyatta disclosing that Kenya's economy has not been well off, and with economists warning of an economic collapse, the cost of living in the country could be twice as expensive.
Kenyans may be forced to dig deeper into their pockets, with the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority (EPRA) announcing an increase in fuel prices in the country. Super petrol has increased by 7.63 shillings, diesel and kerosene going up by 5.75 shillings and 5.41 shillings respectively. A litre of petrol will now retail at 122 shillings and 81 cents, diesel at 107 shillings and 66 cents, and kerosene at 97 shillings and 85 cents. Fuel prices have been increasing in the past couple of months. In January this year, super petrol was up by 17 cents. Diesel had increased by 5 shillings, with the price of kerosene increasing by 4 shillings. Last month, a litre of super petrol was retailing at 115 shillings, up from 107 shillings in January. Diesel increased from 96 shillings to 102 shillings. A litre of kerosene was retailing at 92 shillings. This latest increase in fuel prices is expected to increase the cost of living among Kenyans. According to President Uhuru Kenyatta, Kenya's economy grew at 0.6% last year, although it was expected to grow at 6.2% before the coronavirus disease struck the country.
This, fellow Kenyans, translates to a loss of approximately 560 billion Kenya shillings of GDP, arising from the resultant economic downturn. And this is the price we had to pay in 2020 for the bold decisions that we made to contain this economic freefall.
But it's been far more of an economic emergency. We probably contracted full year last year in terms of GDP terms. The economy obviously got smaller on a year-on-year basis, and that's the first time, I think, for close to 20 years that we've encountered such an outcome.
Kenyans may be forced to brace themselves for hard economic times ahead, with prices of important and basic commodities expected to hit the roof. ODM party has, however, opposed the latest fuel price hikes. The party is calling on the regulatory authority to revise the prices before the decree becomes effective tomorrow.
Well, ODM leader Raila Odinga has already been discharged from Nairobi Hospital. Odinga, who tested positive for COVID-19, that is on Thursday, took to social media to thank his supporters for the overwhelming messages of goodwill.
Huh?
You're back home.
Oh, yes.
How are you feeling after all those days?
Wonderful. It feels so nice to be back home. You know?
I'll keep my distance from you.
I was like, you know, a prison back. And it's
You're
nice
like
to be in fresh air, see the greens, you know, around here.
Yeah.
You know, even though I'm still in isolation, but at least I can see the nature.
You're like a leper.
Yeah. I'll come from a leper island.
It's good to have you back, Dad.
Thank you.
It's good to have you back.
This is good.
Yeah, stretch those knees. Looking good.
And to what will be forming the basis of our conversation this morning, Kenya has withdrawn from a maritime dispute case with Somalia. The case was set to be heard from today to the 24th of March 2021 by the International Court of Justice in The Hague. Now, Sharon Barrack has that report.
For some time now, Kenya and Somalia have been at loggerheads over a maritime border in the Indian Ocean. Following the dispute, the two countries had a case at the International Court of Justice in The Hague, Netherlands. But with a few hours before the hearings kicked off tomorrow, Kenya has withdrawn from the case. The hearing of the case was set to begin on 15th March to 24th March 2021. The Kenyan legal team is expected to seek 30 minutes to explain grounds upon which the country may seek not to participate in the hearings. In 2014, Somalia filed a case before the International Court of Justice, claiming Kenya had encroached on its territory in the Indian Ocean. The area is claimed to be rich in minerals and oil. Earlier, the African Union had urged Kenya and Somalia to consider negotiating the boundary dispute instead of battling it out in court. Sharon Barrack, TV 47.
Thank you, Sharon, for that. Now, to some bit of politics. The endorsement of Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i for presidency next year has attracted criticism and support in equal measures from political players. This comes just a few days after the Council of Nturi Ncheke endorsed National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi as Mount Kenya spokesperson.
The endorsement of Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i to vie for presidency has attracted criticism and support in equal measures from political players. Former Gatanga lawmaker Peter Kenneth says people who are not elected can't be bestowed the mandate to guide the electoral on political directions.
Hao wana usemi ya kusema vile kampuni itatekelezwa. Kwa hivyo watu wa mlima wana usemi wa vile nchi ya Kenya itaenda hapo mbele, itasonga mbele.
Transport CS James Macharia earlier this week endorsed the Matiang'i presidency while on an inspection tour of the county. Kenneth, however, reiterated his stand that nothing prevents Mount Kenya region from producing the president in the next general polls, but warned leaders from dividing the region, referring to the recent installation of National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi as Mount Kenya's region spokesperson.
Mwenyekiti ni Bishop retired Matthew kutoka Meru. Sasa tukianza kugawanya, hiyo ndio italeta shida. Lazima tuzungumze kama jamii moja ya watu ya mlima. Tusilete mambo ambayo itakatakata umoja wetu. Umoja wetu ndio nguvu yetu.
The recent endorsement comes amidst claims of a shaky handshake between President Kenyatta and ODM boss Raila Odinga.
To more politics, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka led a section of elected leaders from the Ukambani region to drum up support for Agnes Kavindu Muthama in the March 8 by-elections, the 18 that is. The leaders who had suspended their planned rally in Mlolongo following president directives opted for church worship as political parties are in their last rush to woo voters.
So tukasema kama kanisa tujikakamue tukicontrol that. Alinituma kwa wafalme, akanatuma kwa watu wengi na kabila nyingi na lugha nyingi, na nikawa ninamuomba nikimuuliza nitafikia hao wafalme lini na aje, na akaniambia platform ni siasa. Sawa. Kwa hivyo naenda pale nikiwa naenda kuwatumikia nyinyi na pia kutumikia Mungu kwa kiwango kile ameniita as a prophet. Sisi mahali tuko tujenge, tufanye kazi. Makao ajenge mashule na CDF what is doing. Mahali kila mtu afanye kazi yake because kuna siku moja itafika kila mtu aulizwe wewe ulipokuwa mahali fulani ulifanya nini?
Why is it that for purposes of Kavindu ametukanwa sana, ameonewa sana, ametolewa what you would be undressing? Why? It's because they are fearing a godly woman.
Wewe chukua hizo na tumesema hizi ni pesa zenu, kuleni pesa zenu, and nobody should ask. In fact, toka kwa ghadhabu kabisa to make even a spiritual point.
And as the race for 2022 leadership gains momentum, a section of ANC members in Kisumu met to deliberate on how to strengthen their party's future in the region ahead of 2022 polls. Speaking after conducting elections of interim officials, the interim chairman, that is John Ouko, said that the officials will conduct recruitment exercise of party members in a bid to popularize and build up the party ahead of 2022 polls. A new officer for ANC will soon be opened to spearhead the party's interests in the region.
I think we have three main agendas, which we are going to run for the short period of time so that we make sure that the party is more popular in this region compared to other time. And two, I just want to say that the main aim and the main agenda we have as party is that we have agreed as members of ANC that we are going to do a recruitment so that we have more members to join ANC as a party in this region, especially Kisumu County.
Uchumi bora, ANC. Musalia Mudavadi, State House. Musalia Mudavadi, State House.
All right, several political leaders from Funyula in Busia County have announced plans to ditch their parties for the United Democratic Alliance ahead of the 2022 general elections. And now the leaders have faulted their parties for not according them the much-needed help in achieving their political dreams in the Western region. The leaders, led by Malava Member of Parliament Malulu Njendi, have declared their support for the Deputy President as he races to State House next year.
Kura yenu miaka mingi tumekuwa tukipatia huyu rafiki yetu kutoka kwa maji, lakini nini mmepata kutoka kwake? Kwa hiyo miaka yote vile mimi nasikia hapa hakuna kitu mmepata. Hata nomination imeshangaa, hata nomination ya MCS wale wengi 7 wametoka nje badala ya kuchukua nyinyi vijana wa hapa.
Umetambua mama mboka kama ni Mkenya kama yule mkubwa mwingine. Vile wanachojipanga, wewe unajipanga na mtu mdogo. Na tunaomba ya kwamba siku inapokaribia watu wa Funyula, tafadhali kumbuka yule mtu amekutembelea wakati una shida.
Mlisikia wakati mheshimiwa ambaye alikuwa party leader Wetangula, sasa alikuwa ameshikilia kakiti kidogo at minority leader. Sasa alipokonywa alipelekwa wapi? So alipatia Orengo sio? Mheshimiwa Rashid Echesa alipokonywa ilienda wapi? Si ilienda huko kwa Magoha. Haya, ikifika good is a handshake. Sisi tuko hapa tumepiga kura zote tunasema NASA TVM na nini. Lakini kusema ukweli good is a handshake zinaanzia hapa Ukwala zikienda wapi? Mpaka huko Migori.
Mulituambia tusiende Jubilee, si ukweli? Sisi tukageti hapa. Lakini sasa ile mlianza kuona utamu, mkaenda huko na mmetufungia gate. Si mulele mcho. Mara yetu nawaambia huko Jubilee mtumewaachia.
Kalenjin elders from Baringo County have called for the unity of the Kalenjin community ahead of the 2022 general elections. Now, the elders, consisting of businessmen and clergymen, say there is a need for the 2 sons of the Rift Valley Deputy President William Ruto and Gideon Baringo Senator, that is Gideon Moi, to work together. They, however, lauded the 2 leaders for showing decorum during the burial of Hosea Kiplagat 3 weeks ago, asking the youth not to be used as agents of chaos, that is, during campaigns and elections.
William Samoei Arap Ruto wakati alitembelea Baringo, watu walipokea vizuri sana, lakini vile sisi kama wazee tuliona tabia ambayo ilifanyika katika Kabarnet, hatukufurahia hata kidogo, na tunataka kuambia vijana wetu wasitumiwe hata kidogo. Heshima haiwezi nunuliwa kama vile nimesema, na mimi nataka niombe hasa viongozi wawe kitu kimoja, kwa sababu tunajua ya kwamba 2022 bado iko mbali, na tunataka kuona ya kwamba watu wetu wanafanyiwa kazi, watu wetu wa Rift Valley, hasa watu wa Kalenjin. Tunataka kuwa kitu kimoja, na ikiwa kutakuwa na uchaguzi wa 2022 kwa sababu ni mbali, tunataka decorum, tunataka umoja, tunataka amani.
Haikuwa hasa kwa ajili yao binafsi, lakini kwa heshima yetu sisi wazee, kwa sababu jukumu la kuongoza nchi au wananchi ni yetu wazee. Na panapo jambo ambalo linaripika, sisi pia tunachukua jukumu hilo. Juzi wakati walipokuwa Cheplambus, tulisikia Gideon akisema ya kwamba they can even work, wanaweza fanya kazi pamoja na Ruto. Kwa hivyo hawa hawana makosa, wameshathibitisha kwamba wangeweza kufanya kazi pamoja. Kwa hivyo sisi pia tunaambia watu wetu waungane, Gideon na Ruto wanaweza kufanya kazi pamoja.
Away from politics, most churches congregate on Sundays to worship But for the Church of God Seventh Day in Moyes Bridge, Sunday service was dedicated to celebrating their new year according to their calendar. Our reporter Boniface Baraza attended the service and filed the following report.
Happy New Year! Happy New Year!
It is joy and dance for faithfuls who turned up in large numbers to celebrate the new year of 5,781 according to the Jewish calendar.
Kuruka mwaka saa 6 ya usiku hatusherekei. Leo hii ndio tunaruka mwaka, maana katika kalenda ya Kiyahudi siku hii ya leo ni tarehe 1 mwezi wa kwanza. Pia tuna sikukuu nyingine kama vile mwezi wa 7 tarehe 15. Tuna sikukuu ya vibanda ambazo ni tofauti na siri ambazo zinasherekewa na watu wa hii dunia yote.
They say their calendar has unique names for months from the usual calendar, with the first month of January referred to as Nisani.
Kulingana na sisi Wayahudi, miezi zetu zinaanza Nisan, Ziv, Zifan, Fourth, Edanim, Buli, Chesili, Zifan, Hadari, Eluli na Hadari.
The church does not observe Christmas or New Year celebrations like other churches does. I sought to establish why.
Krismasi tarehe 25 mwezi wa 12 siyo Yesu aliyezaliwa. Maana maandiko yanasema katika Luka 1:26, mwezi wa 6 malaika alikuja kutoka mbinguni kwa mama mmoja bikira, akamwambia utapata mimba na utazaa mtoto ambaye utamuita Yashua. Basi ukisabua kuanzia mwezi wa 6, mwezi wa 7 ndio mwezi wa mwanamke yako na mimba. Mwezi wa 8 ni mimba miezi 2. Mwezi wa 9 ni mimba miezi 3. Mwezi wa 10 ni mimba miezi 4. Mwezi wa 11 ana mimba ya miezi 5. Hasa mwezi wa yenye nafuata tarehe 24 mtoto anazaliwa. Mama anazaa baada ya miezi mingapi dada yangu? Miezi 9. Kwa hivyo naona hiyo si sikukuu ambayo tunaweza kusherekea.
In addition, the church does not allow women to minister in their services, but only restricts them to leading praise and worship sessions.
Hautakuta wamama wakiongoza mambo ya ibada. Ingawa wamama wanashirikishwa katika hali ya uimbaji na mambo mengine ambayo ni ya unabii. Lakini katika hali ya kusimamia madhabahu utaona ya kwamba ibada zetu zinaongozwa na wazee.
Kuvaa mavazi marefu na nguo pana ni wakati wowote ako nyumbani, ako anatembea, ako kanisani, kila wakati yenye inaonyesha ameokoka.
Boniface Barasa, TV7, Soi Sub-County in Uasin Gishu County.
All right, on that very note, interesting one, so to speak, but then again, we all respect what it is that they abide to. It is time that we now take a quick break and we come back to the newspapers and importantly to the discussion of the day. I mean, we'll have a couple of topics that we'll be touching on. Suddenly a discussion that you do not want to miss out on. Honorable Member of Parliament Daragwa, that is Jeremiah Kioni, is with us in studio, and equally Barrack Muluka, that is Dr. Barrack Muluka, Communications Advisor, joins us this morning for the same. That should be after this short break.
They say the way to the heart is through the stomach. This month of love, Throwdown shares with you those amazing food ideas for that candlelit dinner and picnic date. Learn those dining etiquette and avoid those embarrassing moments every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. What's the perfect way to kickstart your day in the morning? Well, apart from having a healthy breakfast, the Morning Cafe is all you need. We will inform you on what's happening on the roads, dive deeper into the newspapers, alongside heated political debates.
I have to fight the order.
Yes.
Order.
Did you know that your greatest wealth is health?
System then we start eating right, and that's what I do in my clinic.
With some good Friday vibes. The Morning Cafe with Linda Alela, Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. only on TV 47. On the grind, we bring you different entrepreneurs who give the story of their businesses with love and passion.
I'm a musician forever. This is something that is inborn.
It exists each day. It's a field that has always excited me.
Because when you show love to your business, it will show love to you.
The most rewarding bit of being a photographer is seeing a bride able to see her images of her wedding and evoke emotion in her and just relive the moment once again.
Get to hear these stories and so much more every Monday at 7:30 p.m. On Coffee with Movie, we bring you great testimonies from amazing personalities.
Mwanzo wa kwanza alikaa ndani ilikuwa intense cause alikuwa alikuwa atafuta place atawaka akifanya thesis zake.
Stories that will inspire and encourage you.
Welcome back. The hashtag is Morning Cafe. At Linda_Alela is my Twitter handle at TV47KA. Drop your comments and let's get to hear what you have to say. Even as we proceed with the conversations of the day, we focus on the Kenya-Somalia maritime dispute that has been in existence for quite a while, set to go to the ICJ starting today all the way to the 24th. But Kenya decided to take an about turn on that one. What does it mean? We'll be discussing that as we proceed. Importantly, we take a look at the fuel prices and whether indeed EPRA should maintain that stand, even as the likes of ODM have called upon them to probably reconsider this particular move, even as Kenyans continue to worry and getting even more scared in regards to how difficult times lie ahead of us. Also, we just question this aspect of most of our African leaders going missing, or so to speak, and in most cases we do not get to have a clear picture of what exactly it is that is happening with them. Do we have the right to that? Definitely. The gentleman on board would probably be telling us of what it would mean to have a leader speaking out of their whereabouts and making sure that the nation is well kept abreast in regards to the same. But importantly, we also look at the political events that are taking center stage. One of them that has been captured on the newspapers, that is the Standard newspaper front page. But importantly also, we take a look at what to expect, that is on the senatorial by-election slated for the 18th of March in Machakos County. Joining me for this conversation this morning, as earlier mentioned, Jeremiah Kioni, Member of Parliament, Daragwa. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
And Dr. Barrack Muluka, Communications Advisor. Good to have you this morning. All right, straight to, first the papers. We all have the Standard newspaper with us this morning. And the page of the Standard newspaper, that should be the Daily Nation, sir. The Standard is on the other side. And here we are with the Standard newspaper. Let me share. Power behind deep state.
Okay.
This is something that has probably raised jitters, or so to speak, throwing the aspect of the handshake into worry and all that. And so the Standard newspaper speaks of this particular hot seat. Interior Principal Secretary Kibichu has been in the eye of a storm after ODM demanded his removal, accusing him of meddling in BBI politics. He is not the first holder of this powerful office to face political blows. So why is this position loved and loathed in equal measures? It is not just ODM, but equally the other time we've seen the likes of leaders allied to Deputy President William Ruto equally pointing fingers at this particular office, saying that they are being used by the executive to scaffold their political moves, which to them is biased, which to them is unfair, which goes against what it is that the police service or police force is supposed to do. Washimiro.
If you, I'm looking at the
the images, the photos of the individuals who held this
If we can
office.
have that on screen,
And
Madam
you can
Director.
actually
Yes.
see that it is only my governor who has a big smile. All the others are Governor Kimemia.
Kimemia, right.
But this is an interesting office because I believe it is the office that brings in politics and the civil service, and it is like where the two meet and they fuse, and whoever is the holder of that office has that unique responsibility of wielding a lot of power, and also being at the center where decisions are taken as to whether something should be implemented or not. So it's
why
very,
not Matiang'i and but Kibicho?
Yeah, it's a because it's a principle. You are looking at the person who is holding the signature.
Okay.
And it's also good to say that I don't think it's not as powerful as it used to be under the old constitution.
Right.
Because you now have a CS who has also some executive authority. But before, you had a CS who didn't have executive, or a minister without full executive authority, but a PS who is the one with the pen, and he's the one who will actually decide how politics affect the ordinary lives of Kenyans and what kind of services are delivered. He's the one, he's actually like the nexus. Okay. He was, but again also, it's an office that, other than the fact that it is the one that controlled the civil service and links it to the political power, I think it is also the office where when you're in charge of security, internal security, it's at that you are able to know exactly what is happening where at any given time in this republic.
All right.
That's a lot of power.
Okay. Is this office the heart of the so-called blue, the so-called deep state? Dr. Barrack, because then the person in question here, that is Kibicho, is not the only one that has been mentioned. You go to page 2, and I mean also the front page still, these faces that are there, they are considered as the president's blue-eyed boys who wield power and influence. Probably explains why Matiang'i is not on this particular equation.
Thank you, Linda. First, I think we need to place this in context while appreciating what the deep state is. And the notion of deep state is universal. Okay. It's not just confined to the Republic of Kenya. It's there in other parts of the world. It has been there historically. When you read the history of Russia, for example, before the 1917 revolution, you read of a character who was called Rasputin, the mad monk, and who had a lot of influence in the Russian Tsar's court. Basically, we have to distinguish between power and authority. Many times people who have authority, those who are authorized by the instruments of law to act, do not have the power. The power sits somewhere else. And the people who exercise and influence power will push the people with authority to do what those with the power would like to be done. Hence, those people who are faceless, who are amorphous, whom we don't even see or even know by name in the open, the deep state. They could be people in the military, they could be people in business, in industry, they could be people in the public service. They come together to constitute that which is called the deep state. And you cannot necessarily isolate one individual like Karanja, Kibicho, or Yugi in the old days, or Charles Njonjo, and call him or her the deep state. There are many other people behind. They have their interests. They tend to own their space because they are powerful, as I have said. They have got the wherewithal. They influence elections and election outcomes. Sometimes they will sponsor both sides of the competition when there is a presidential election, for instance.
And on that very note, then what is the essence of the electorate going out there to vote? In most cases, there is argument that really our votes do not count.
Democracy is a good thing, or sometimes even just what appears like democracy. Adolf Hitler is famous for saying that the people who vote don't count. The people who count are the people who count the votes and announce the outcome.
All right.
So it's useful that for peaceful maintenance of a society, it appears to go through democratic processes and motions.
All right.
But usually the deep state has got its own interests, and it wants the election to turn in a certain way. And why they would sponsor Mheshimiwa Kioni and sponsor me is that sometimes we look like we are equally balanced, but at some point when they discover that he seems to be tilting the scales, they can also abandon me high and dry. They are always on the lookout in moments of turbulence, such as is happening in Myanmar, and they will check. And if they see that there's a popular uprising, they will quickly move to usurp that uprising, push in place people who look like they are the right faces, as for example happened in Egypt. During the Arab Spring, when they brought in the leadership of the Muslim Brotherhood. But at an appropriate time, they will take away that power and put it, that authority rather, and put it where they think they would like it to be. Now, there's something very interesting about Karanja Kibicho that we should be hearing about him today, with complaints coming from ODM. Because Karanja Kibicho has been everywhere these past few months, pushing and marketing and positioning the BBI, and nobody complained. Certainly not in the ODM. The people who complained were outsiders to the handshake and to the BBI. So suddenly they start complaining about Karanja Kibicho. There's a saying that you don't approbate when the activities seem to be favoring you, and reprobate when they seem not to be favoring you. And we say this because something interesting is happening. That while the public service is supposed to stay out of politics, the executive is in a bit of an ambiguous space, because the executive is led by the president, and although we have been told that they are not politicians, they are politicians. People in the cabinet are playing politics. They are always an interested party, and in recent times we have begun hearing people in the cabinet saying that they want to position one of them to become the next president. Peter Munya, James Macharia, they have very clearly in broad daylight stated that they want Dr. Fred Matiang'i to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta.
So we'd love to hear what it is.
There's a new kid on the block.
Would you exhibit confidence in this kid on the block, Mheshimiwa? Even as we see your governor equally there.
My governor. Now, I think one of the important things that has come out from that presentation by Daktari, the deep state is not an individual. And there are times you think you know, and you actually realize that you don't know where it is, because it is it's in several places that you cannot quite pin. It's only that the office of the PS Interior looks like it has been the face of the deep state at any given point. But two is that deep state is not evil at all, and it will never be. It can undertake some very difficult tasks, but it is not evil. It is something that Like Dr. Arya said, they are everywhere in the world. And I believe it is something that a government, a state requires anytime the government would want to function properly. I remember during my 10th parliament engaging some people at the intelligence system, and they informed us. In fact, let me just say it correctly, that we were taken through a seminar as members of parliament by the intelligence system in our country. And they tried to bring out what is their law, because there's always that collision between elected leaders and those doing some of the things that we don't quite understand, like the NIS. And we were told that at any given time, their responsibility is to ensure that the country functions. They will try, when they are functioning properly, they will always ensure that the country is transited to a next person. Of course, the issue of preferences could be there, but they say their primary responsibility is to ensure that the country succeeds in being peaceful. And they play a very key role. And I want to tell you that before that talk that we had, and it was somewhere out along the coast for a long time, my thinking of these individuals was very different. It's like people who are always out to hurt us, people who are always out to do the wrong things, but I was able to see that other side, and I'm sure that's a very unique opportunity. But I think because it's, all these people come and sit together, and they look at, they get to know information that we do not know. They have details that you may not like. They have details that you may not even think exist. And it's a question of how you want to look at it. You may look at that in the negative. You may look at it from the positive. On the issue of perhaps the presence of Dr. Kibicho, I think we also forget that he is actually a PhD holder, and he was a very fine engineer. I engaged him when he was at the Jomo Kenyatta University, and when he was also the PS industrialization. He is the one who helped me define pyrethrum as an industrial crop, as not as a cash crop. Something we may have done since 1963, and we came up with an act that is now being very useful in our new way of as we try to look at how farmers can benefit from other parts of this country, from the crops that they can plant and harvest. But I wanted to say that his presence in the political sphere and on issues of BBI, I believe it is informed by what is the agenda of this government. And I believe BBI is certainly one of the agendas that the government would want to deliver on. And the other thing is that unlike what we were doing during 10th Parliament, 11th and 12th Parliament, the PSCs have been picked from a political platform, and with a lot of politics being played on the floor, literally, one trying to pull all the political cards for one person, for a name to go through. A thing that is on the table, because BBI proposes that PSCs will no longer be picked from that political platform, but they should be individuals picked by the executive without bringing them to the political field to avoid influencing them or holding them politically, which we do now. You can actually see somebody being held at ransom and saying, remember, you come from our region, so we are the ones. In this case will not hold them at ransom? They will, but the other thing is that the politicians are also in parliament. So they will be playing politics with the other politicians in parliament. Barrack, in 1 minute, in reaction to what I believe that is... So I just wanted to say that I saw him a lot out in the BBI, and it was necessary, and I think it is a useful thing that happens. Of course, it went the wrong way in the faces of some people.
In 1 minute or so.
Thank you. I think it's useful to make some slight adjustment, if not a correction, because as I said earlier, there's a difference between authority and power. And when we see someone like Karanja Kibicho, He is the face of authority, but he could also be concurrently the face of the deep state, and therefore he falls somewhere in some liminal space where he straddles the two authorities, the authority, the two entities, the authority and the deep state. And I want to slightly disagree with the Honorable Member for Ndaragwa about the deep state, the possibility that it is a good entity. Perhaps it could be, I'm not very sure. But when you talk about the deep state, as we have seen it in history, you're talking about the Italian mafia being the power behind the throne.
Hold it right there. From that very note, we come and get it back. We have to take a quick commercial break.
You are watching They say the way to the heart is through the stomach. This month of love, Throwdown shares with you those amazing food ideas for that candlelit dinner and picnic date. Learn those dining etiquette and avoid those embarrassing moments every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. What's the perfect way to kickstart your day in the morning? Well, apart from having a healthy breakfast, the morning cafe is all you need. We will inform you on what's happening on the roads, dive deeper into the newspapers, alongside heated political debates.
What I have to fight the two. Order.
Yes.
Order.
Did you know that your greatest wealth is health?
Then we start eating right, and that's what I do in my clinic.
With some good Friday vibes. The Morning Cafe with Linda Alela, Monday to Friday, from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Only on TV 47. On the grind, we bring you different entrepreneurs who give the story of their businesses with love and passion.
I'm a musician forever. This is something that is inborn.
It excites me each day. It's a field that has always excited me.
Because when you show love to your business, it will show love to you.
The most rewarding bit of being a photographer is seeing a bride able to see her images of her wedding and evoke emotion in her and just relive the moment once again.
Get to hear these stories and so much more. The Home of Untold Stories.
Welcome back to the broadcast. Still with me this morning, Honorable Member of Parliament of Ndaragwa, that is Jeremiah Kioni, and Dr. Barrack Muluka, Communications Advisor. Before we went for break, discussing some bit of what has been captured on the front page of the Standard newspaper in regards to, extensively looking at the aspect of the deep state and their role, and whether indeed sometimes it's good to have them, as declared by the Member of Parliament Ndaragwa. Yes, countering the same, or probably expounding some more in regards to this, Dr. Barrack.
Yes, I was explaining, Linda, that the deep state is often a dark state.
Yeah.
The deep state, the dark state.
Right.
Power should emanate from the people, not from some hidden third sources.
Okay.
And the people donate that power to their representatives who are elected, like Mheshimiwa here. But you have these other entities that are hidden. And I was saying that Quite often there are entities like the Italian mafia and who lead to instability. Between the end of the Second World War and today, Italy has had upwards of 50, perhaps even 60 different governments. There was a time when they used to collapse every 2-3 months, and there's that hidden influence in the background that the deep state will often have drug cartels and drug rings. If you look at South America, you look at places like Peru, you look at Mexico in Central America, you look at Guatemala, the Honduras, you get to appreciate the full magnitude of the deep state. They infiltrate the executive, they infiltrate the legislature, they infiltrate the judiciary, and things are done the way they want them to be done. When you go to the ballot, you do so only by way of doing some kind of drama. It doesn't matter. The outcome of what they want is what is going to happen. And you have heard in this country, people within ODM itself going out to say that in the past we have lost elections because of the deep state, but we now have the deep state with us, and therefore we are going to win. And that is extremely...
Have you heard of this, that there was a declaration? This probably I'll get to borrow from the two of you in regards to history. Some of the things that we hear, I don't know whether they're sideshow declarations or it's actually what has been there, that at some point in time there was this, agreement that there's not a single day that Right Honorable Raila Odinga would be allowed into being the president of the country, well, by the military, by the deep state, or so to speak. That is after that coup.
I'm not so sure about that. I think we have got to create space also for myths, for rumors, and for other kinds of oral narratives to also play their role.
You know, I had this quite a while back, and true to it,
and politicians and people who strive to exercise power are allowed to make avowals to the extent that we will never allow this one to become the head of state, provided that the means which they are going to use to bar that person from accessing that power are lawful means that are recognized by the laws of the land.
I have had it. I had it.
You've had it, yes?
I had it perhaps in the last 2 or so months, when the Luo Council of Elders posed the same question in the same manner to the Kikuyu Council of Elders, and it was made very clear by the Kikuyu Council of Elders that that is just one of the many propaganda statements that you hear around to, and people feed into them or from them. And as Dr. says again, is that it's statements made by politicians, at times believed by ordinary Kenyans, and eventually looking like it is something that was written somewhere. There was a note that was taken. But these are statements that people could make in a bar, that we will not allow him to ever become a president of this republic. And that then has his own life. But I can assure you, like the elders assured those from Nyanza, that there's nowhere that it was written, there was no oath that was given to Kikuyus or in a community, but that any particular group, that's another question. Any particular person will never become a leader of this republic. Let me tell you, any person is sellable anywhere in this country. It's a question of time, and it's a question of tact, and it's also a lot of things, circumstances that prevail at any given time. And ascending to the highest office of the land takes more than just campaigning. It takes more than just campaigning. And I can tell you that there will be very many people who will be fit for that office at any given time. But what will end up giving that position to one person, you never know. Sometimes just a stroke of luck or circumstances. Like, for example, get back to 2013. I mean, there was the issue of ICC became so overwhelming that you tried to campaign against it, it was made the key thing, and that took people to power.
Or
So it's really,
seasoned politicians
yet,
like Right Honorable Raila Odinga,
yes,
one of the best that we probably could say we have. You want to tell me has never, gotten a chance to get to spot this tact?
I want to tell you that 2013 perhaps was one of the other very crucial or near times when perhaps the PM would have been the president. But look at ICC became something that completely took control of this country. And we were involved in it. I was there with Musalia Mudavadi, and I can tell you, even the international community was saying, like, there's very little we can do against this momentum that has been created. So circumstances do come, or issues can come and take away a seat that can be yours. And that is where, that's one of the other things that can be done by those individuals called the deep state, not the dark. I don't want to use the old negative meaning to this statement, but some of those things are the things that you may want to credit. For example, let me ask you. Let me say this, and I want to use you have a situation where a warlord is just about to become a president or a leader of a nation. And everything is set for that to happen. And at that point, I would want the deep state to help the country, not for us to go, not this country called Kenya, but any other country, yes, to save the country from slipping into that kind of a direction. Because at times, the propaganda machinery is so powerful, and it is so taken in by the people. I don't want to go too deep into this, but look at where we are with the BBI. I can tell you, in our region, all that has been going on for the last 18 months, 2 years. What did I say? Yeah, one year and a half, 2 years, is propaganda. And until you work hard to make sure that you change that tide, Kenyans are likely to make a decision based on propaganda, and propaganda is really a mixture of lies and fears and things that are not quite true.
Propagated by
by those who really do not want you to go that way, but they don't want to face you with the facts and the truth. So they come and spin other things, which is now what we are trying to undo. And I can tell you, by the time we are voting, we'll have undone it. I had a town hall meeting on Saturday at a place called Ojoro. And every Kenyan who was there said, what are you telling us? Who are these people who came around here and lied to us for the last so number of months?
What in particular?
Because you pick out issue after the other, and you tell them, shoot the questions. I don't even want to tell you anything. Shoot the questions that they have been put to you.
Why is this coming in late? Civic or education?
Because
very
you see,
important.
and this is a strategy for people who fear the truth and facts. You go ahead of the time and start creating a narrative that is not true. And it has always been said, lies would always try and run ahead of the truth.
Of the ombudsman, looking at the aspect of the IEBC which was looked into, looking at the numerous key points that have been mentioned by the dissenting voices. I mean, just how genuine can you confidently stand and say that these are people who are scared of the truth, yet they pinpoint issues that, in a way,
pick one.
I have mentioned
pick
those
one
ones that I have mentioned. Barrack, you can come in handy in regards to this.
First of all, about whether certain individuals or certain products can be marketed in certain environments. It's an old marketing principle that it depends on the place, on the product, and on the price. That when you want to position a certain product, for example, in central Kenya or in Luhyaland or wherever, you must ask yourself, what is this product? What is the cost of this product to the market that I'm trying to take it to? Can you, for example, position pork in a mosque? What would be the price of positioning pork in a mosque? Mheshimiwa of Ndaragwa says he thinks he can. I'd like to see him do that. But When you look at the BBI specifically, ask yourself, why is it that we should be talking about rumors, lies, and propaganda? And I don't agree with the definition of propaganda. As a student and a teacher of public communications, I know that propaganda traditionally is organized information for public consumption, and that there are different denominations of propaganda, including, once again, what you may call dark propaganda. And I think that is where Mheshimiwa Kioni is doing. Mheshimiwa Kioni is an extremely brilliant person who knows how to cherry pick and position. So he says this is propaganda. Why should we have that dark propaganda being positioned in central Kenya, for instance? Is it not a factor of failure in communication? Anytime you want to go to roll out a product, I can tell this to anyone who has a product they wish to roll out to the market. Tell to them for free, you must have a public communication strategic plan that is affordable, that is workable, that can be implemented. Now you have a very important national project that you want to change significant aspects of the constitution, and first you don't even make those changes available to the people, leave alone going out to explain to them. You create room for that kind of speculation. And we have become, I'm sorry, but we have become a zombified nation, such that even the county assemblies will vote for this bill not even having read it.
Sure.
Not even having read it. I came across some MCS from Kisumu who start saying things like, oh, why is it that this thing seems to be giving a lot of new constituencies to central Kenya, while in Luoland there are only 3, 2 in Kisumu and 1 in Siaya. The question is, when you are voting for it, had you not read that? So it's that kind of zombification of the population, starting with persons who are in very key places like county assemblies and elsewhere, that must begin worrying us. And going into the future, I don't know where we are going to be, because up to this very moment, I have not seen the document of the kind that President Mwai Kibaki's regime used to present before Kenyans to say, this is the draft bill.
Go through it.
Go through it. We have not seen that.
Mheshimiwa, you have failed on that as proponents of the document?
I think
Though you say
there can never
still
be,
time,
there
and
cannot be a better place to pick the document than the government of Kenya, because this is a bill, and a bill that has been produced is printed by the government of Kenya, and it can only be one copy. So, and I have a copy. Maybe I'll help.
What about the voters in Turkana, the voters in Maralal, the voters in Nairobi?
Just before you said there is no document. I think the other one is how.
I didn't say there's no document.
How have they?
But the document has not been positioned in public space.
All right.
It behooves the government of the day.
Can I answer? Can I just say a few more things in addition to what he has said, so that Kenyans are able to get quite some bit of. Let me talk about the issue of selling, and I agree with him. You cannot go and sell pork. I said I can try. That was in jest. I wouldn't want to try, and I wouldn't even want to be seen to even hold the mosque with any level of contempt or anything. But I have, the time I've been in politics, ask me and I'll tell you it is possible. Few of us believes that Kikuyus would take in on the ticket of Uhuru and Ruto 2013. There was such resistance as King Ruto Uhuru, why would you want to ever bring this kind of a man to us? And I sat in meetings where the Kalenjins were asking the same thing. Why would you want to bring Uhuru to us? Remember the crashes that we had 2007.
Yes.
And they were mainly between the Kikuyu, I mean the people who suffered most. We lost more than in terms of numbers and property. The community lost heavily on this, and that was really a big issue. But it was through a lot of talking and agreeing that where do we want to go, how do we want to get there, what do we need to do, and eventually we had William Ruto as the deputy of Uhuru. And those of us who didn't think it was a good package, we had our own way of looking at it, and we suffered the consequences. I want to tell you that it does not take anything different. If it is, for example, to get Lyra sold in Mount Kenya, there is a lot of resistance, I can tell you. But it is a question of people just deciding we are going to do it
this
way.
Is there not such a huge difference of the president and the DP in this case? Then you realize that, well, it would be easy to sell him if he's coming in as the second man and not the first one.
That is another thing. I wanted to finish this and say, just like it was difficult to sell Ruto 2013 in our region, it's the same thing. It's difficult to sell with ODM candidate in our region 2022 or whatever other date that may be there. But these are things that you can overcome. Let me also say this. It's just as one of the, of course, I don't want to fail to point out, one of the biggest fears locally and internationally, we can be, perhaps another city we can do this, there is always that fear of what becomes of this country if Kikuyus and Luos come together. A debate for another day, and I can give you a whole of it. What becomes of us if Kikuyus and Luos come together? And for that reason, a lot of things are thrown in, and I like the definition of propaganda is organized information, which is organized so that it is given to people out there.
To consume.
So you can actually organize false information.
That's true.
Because it's still organized information. You can organize a set of lies and feed it to the people before the truth comes out, like it has happened with the issues of BBI. And he is a communication expert. In fact, if you want to go anywhere, one of the individuals you must call upon is Daktari here.
Politically, right?
Yes. I know him. He can do it from many angles. But I think it becomes difficult even when you are dealing with communication, when you have a betrayer coming from inside the room. You have agreed that this is the kind of information you are going to give out. This is what you want to eventually achieve. And somebody who is inside the planning decides to go out and betray you because goes ahead of you and betrays the whole project.
Do you think the people of Central Region had
packages information, organizes information that is contrary to what you have agreed in the room, and then sells it ahead of you. And this is exactly what happened with the BBI, because we were all in it. And he'll tell you that those people who organize the information, a set of propaganda is organized information, packaged it, sold it to people, and especially in Mount Kenya, which was not true. And that is what we are now trying to unpackage. It will be done, and we will unpackage it. I have quite a number of sets, and I agree. Unlike 2010 Constitution, the document of BBI is not in the numbers that were produced 2010, but it is available. And even now, whenever I go for town hall meetings, I take it out there. And it was not right for us to have taken it before the county assembly assented to it. Now you can take a document that this is what the county assembly passed. So you are selling a document. So there are stages. There are stages of this. And we are now at the stage of
Barrack
before he does that. He said a few more things. Yes, the half minute before I finish.
For only half a minute.
I wanted to say that we now are at the point where we are doing the document, we are giving it out, and it will be available. And when you talk about more seats coming to Mount Kenya and others going elsewhere, I think it is also important to say the formula that allocates seats to any part of this country, one is a scientific formula, two is embedded in the 2010 Constitution. So the statement by Daktari is not truthful. It needs to be, you need to bounce it against the formula that we have in our constitution, which we passed 2010.
You see, let me start from there.
The scientific aspect.
First, I have not complained about more seats going to Mount Kenya or anywhere else. It's a misapprehension on the part of the Honorable Member of Parliament. I have only observed that some persons in Luo Nyanza are now taking umbrage at the fact that there are more seats going to Mount Kenya region than there seem to be going anywhere else, and especially Luo Nyanza. It's like if you say it is raining, and it's actually raining outside there, you have neither praised nor condemned the rains. You've only made an observation that this is what some people are saying.
And wanting to blame God for the rains.
And my question then becomes, why didn't you raise this? Is it because you had not seen it? Is it because it had reached you and you had not read it? You are almost beginning to complain when the rain is over. It has already rained. It cannot be stopped. It cannot be reversed.
Probably the people who read did not take them through this, because I had members of county assemblies from the Mount Kenya region, and they say during the Sagana 3 declaration, the president highlighted very well that, you know what, this is to the advantage of the people of the mountain, because we have more coming our way. And I had them say, you know what, we might be against what it is that Jubilee, that is Kilepe, speaks about, but this one we're going to sail through because it's for the benefit of the people of central Kenya. One of them was confident enough to tell us, you know, the rest of the people, the rest of the country will be foolish to pass this, but them, they will pass it because it's for the advantage of Mount Kenya.
It's embarrassing in the extreme. First, that it should be to the advantage of Mount Kenya. If I was from Mount Kenya, I would embrace it. It would be stupid of me to oppose anything that seemed to be bringing advantage to me. But it's embarrassing in the extreme that it should take the president to explain to you
as a member of
the
county assembly
benefits, and you are an elected representative of the people. This conversation has been going on for a very long time. One of the very first things you should have done was to petition the owners of the BBI bill to ensure that it is produced in sufficient copies to be everywhere in the country, in the hands of the people. And Mheshimiwa here, who is a very good propagandist, misleads the panel and misleads the audience by saying that it had not been passed by the county assemblies, so it could not have been taken to the people, that now the county assemblies have passed it, it can be taken to the people. Our laws talk about public participation in legislation, including at the county assembly. How does the public participate if it has not seen that document? Mheshimiwa here has taken a sacrosanct oath to protect the laws of this land. And while I agree with him and I support him that he has every right and responsibility to protect the interests of the region that he represents and the constituents, he must also protect the Constitution, without which the benefits that accrue to that constituency would not be there. The Constitution expects a certain orderly conduct of public affairs, particularly as they pertain to legislation.
All right, Mheshimiwa, let's drop this one and get out.
A quick one, just to let him You know that you must be clear in your mind as to what are you talking about. Are you talking about the bill or the draft?
Okay.
You're talking about the draft. Now we have the
At
document.
this level, we have the bill.
Yes,
So
and that's
we
what
are
I was
focused
talking
on the
about.
bill. Yes.
We now have it. We will produce it in numbers, and they'll be available. The draft were also available. They started being given out. Even the reports, they started being given out at Bombas and the rest.
Very many of them.
In fact, there was a time that it was a full pull-out in the Standard, and it was like just like we did in 2010, a copy. I think the center of the whole of the Standard was just the whole of what was being proposed. But now, if you really want to know the proper document, this is what I was saying. The proper document, you get it from government printers. And I was there on. I had a town hall. I was there on Friday, and I got a set of them so that I can use them in my discussions as I go. So the documents are there. And they will be given. By the time Kenyans are getting an opportunity to vote during the referendum, they will have been given to them so that they can be able to be informed. Okay. When again you talk about this information in Mount Kenya, we said, you can remember his definition is a set of organized information that you present to the people.
Okay.
That information was organized is Mount Kenya. That we have the heaviest resistance to this document.
Right.
And it was organized by the president.
Are you agreeing to what it is that Kenyatta said, though you countered it when he said
I did, and I am telling you now, it is not even a question. No, it's not even a question of being in agreement. I counted it there, and I'm telling you to wait for the results.
Okay.
Yes, I will be here after the results. You'll be shocked. Because when you give people the truth and the facts, and they are able to make that decision. And we will do it including in Kisumu, where that narrative is now being peddled by others that Kisumu may have voted for a document that is not beneficial to them. That's far from the truth. This is a document that is beneficial to all parts of this country.
Okay.
The thing is that you see some benefits coming to an area differently from another, because this is a country that is also very different. So there are benefits in every of the parts of this country.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about constituencies, for example, you ask yourself as a reasonable person who has gone to school and who believes in has some kind of faith. It may not even be Christian faith, but some kind of faith. Ruiru, and I'm just speaking Ruiru because Kakamega and Bungoma are in the same class.
Mm-hmm.
Ruiru has now
huge.
540,000 Kenyans. Yes. They may be Kikuyus, but Kenyans.
Right.
With one member of parliament. How on earth will he ever perform? 500,000. When you have another constituency that has 30,000, you have a county that has 184,000. Do you know Ruiru constituency is bigger than some 5 or 6 counties in this country? Those are some of the things I would expect. Our professionals in communication should be helping us to package that information so that it is sold across the country, and for Kenyans to feel like, yes, there are other Kenyans.
Then why not go for the multiple choices,
there are
so
other
that
Kenyans.
People can address the key things that they feel should be addressed, and others go otherwise.
Can you help me finish this so that Kenyans can know that, yes, we are all Kenyans, and there are Kenyans in that corner who are suffering than Kenyans in this corner.
Linda,
those are the kind of things that need to be done.
30 seconds.
Right of reply.
All right.
Though he articulated for 5 minutes.
So you want?
But you had done 15.
No, I'll make it 1 minute. I'll make it 1 minute. You're a communications expert.
There you go. Package the information.
The 30 seconds.
Yeah. Package the information.
And once again, I would like Mheshimiwa to draw a distinction between me saying that this is what some MCAs in Kisumu are now saying, on the one hand, and me as Barrack saying that Mount Kenya should not have got this, should not have got that. I think that is to demonize communication. We are allowed to come here and to say this is what some people have now said. Whether it is a good thing or a bad thing is a different agenda altogether. I think it's important that...
And I think you are telling me it is a tact of communication. It's a style of communicating by reporting what others have said and not owning up to their statement.
But he cannot gag me from making an observation that this is what people have said.
No, I cannot.
Yeah?
I cannot. I must apologize for that.
That we are in this habit of when you make an observation, then you are labeled as the owner of that particular opinion, which is not really the issue. We position it there, and then we interrogate the circumstances around it. Yeah. And the circumstances indicate that we have got a population of legislators who do not read, including the most basic things they should read, like bills. And this bill here, I repeat, should have been placed before not just the assemblies, but before the public as well, well in advance of it sailing through or being debated, for that matter, in the assemblies, because that is the law. The law requires that the public is going to participate in the law-making process. And finally,
and the principle.
Let's close this one.
And finally, is it possible for Mheshimiwa to comport himself in a manner that precludes banging the table? Some of us get
have I banged the table?
Get a
Maybe my hands are too heavy.
A little intimidated when.
If you can intimidate Daktari, then you can know that you have space. Yes. But don't let him go again. Don't let him.
I will protect you.
I will not. I will never bang the table again. If I did, my apologies.
You are protected.
But remember, the author of a defamatory statement and the publisher suffer the same consequence. Right. So when you get a statement uttered out there that is either not factual or is defamatory, and then you come and repeat it, in the eyes of the law, you have the same penalty.
It gets me wondering how best can we approach this.
I didn't place my hands on the table this time.
All right, all right, gentlemen.
I allowed you for
that. It gets me a bit scared on how we're going to handle this subject, and so I'd want for us to look at the general perspective of the same. I will jump the prizes, and I will jump that aspect of, that is in regards to the by-elections and also the Somali role, and briefly look at this one, still missing in action. We are away from the newspaper review. This is one of the things that I wanted us to touch on. And I'd just love for us to look into the aspect of African leaders, or maybe leadership at large, and the importance of the people knowing their whereabouts of the leaders that they elect. I would want to believe, Mheshimiwa, that the people of Ndaragwa have the right to know whether their member of parliament is in parliament representing them, whether their member of parliament is in parliament fronting this, certain bills, whether their member of parliament once in a while gets time to go down there and understand what is happening. In the event that they are not privy to this information, then what? I
think this is one of the fundamental, one of the basic things, one of the minimums that a leader should do. Remember, I think it was back in 1998 or 99, the President of the Republic of Kenya then, the late Mheshimiwa, His Excellency Daniel Arap Moi, stayed for a period of about 2 years, 1 year and a half, 1 year, 8 months or something like that, without a vice president. And one time when he was somewhere near Sokomjinga, this Lemuru Road, he said, and if by announcing George Saitoti as my vice president, if it's going to add you another plate of food, then I have appointed him as my vice president. That statement informed the need to include in our constitution that a president must show to us his running mate at the point of electing, so that the country is never ever again held at ransom. That informs this thing that is happening now, that you can have a president out there missing, you do not know what is happening. Once you have offered yourself to lead a country, I think it is only fair that you never allow people to be in this kind of anxiety. They do not know whether you are there, whether you are not there, whether you are unwell. And I tell you, the leadership that was shown by the former Prime Minister, Raila Odinga, he got COVID, he says, I have COVID, he goes to the hospital, and that is very useful because you help the country to move on. It is even better when it is done at the level of the minister. In Parliament, when this COVID started hitting us, and we saw you in the media saying, 40 members of Parliament have COVID, then we actually said it is only fair for the country that if any of us has COVID, let us know. One, we want to know how to behave when we are around you. Two, let it be known that it is necessary for Kenyans to, one, say when you have it, but also as readers, don't hide it from your members of the constituency. Let them even know when you should keep yourself away from the constituency. So I want to say that this is a very primitive behavior. You should, leaders should come out and say, I am unwell. They are also human. I am unwell. I am admitted here. And the country should also be able to plan. You know, I was, look at how when Trump got COVID.
Yes.
I mean, we are this far, but we were being updated almost on a hour-to-hour basis.
Yes.
He is now breathing. The oxygen levels are moved this way. You know, that kind of course, sometimes some details are too much, but it is necessary that leaders get to even remember what the president did when he was going to the ICC. That time he had an overpower. So he didn't leave us in a place where what is going to happen to this country.
And as necessary as this may be, Barrack, we have witnessed it across different parts of Africa or different countries. I'd want to pinpoint or take an example of what played out in Nigeria. Buhari missing in action for quite a while, to a point where there was this conversation, and it's still a conversation that is there, the Biafrans who want to secede, to become a nation of their own. They started speaking of a scenario where actually the Buhari that we have today is not Buhari, like Buhari is already dead, and they have brought another person in the name of Jibril, to sit in the position of Buhari, and a lot of, drama and a lot of things being propagated in that sense. I mean, just what are the ramifications of the same if it gets to such a level? You've seen what Tundu Lissu is doing. He's out there. This is like fodder for the opposition, fodder for the person who's against the president.
Yeah, first, I think there's something a little inappropriate when the political opposition also thinks that it has got an opportunity for fodder because the health of any one individual is important.
Right.
And when you believe in constitutionalism, then you also must believe in the right of everyone to good health. Not that anyone has induced this particular happening, but it is important, and that's why, for example, Kenyans begin taking delight in the fact that the Honorable Raila Odinga not only reported to them that he was unwell, but he also indicated what the challenge was, and that after coming out of hospital, he did come out in space where a member of his family recorded a video clip and shared it to place it beyond doubt that here is an individual who is on the road to recovery. In this country, I do recall as a little boy, in 1968, I think there was a challenge with the President Jomo Kenyatta. In the fullness of time, we would get to know that he suffered a mild kind of indisposition, and it placed him in the hands of the medical fraternity. And at every news bulletin, we were being updated on the condition of the President of the Republic, because the head of state and government represents very many important things in the country. The authority that we talked about earlier, the power of the state, the state security, and all that. And the laws of any properly organized and led country anticipate that moments may come when the head of state or head of government may not be able to exercise the powers and authorities that are conferred upon him or her. And in that case, the following is what happens. If you read our constitution, it talks of if the president is unable to discharge the responsibilities of the office of president, then the following will happen. When the deputy president is unable, and they go on up to the point where if there's completely nobody within those dockets, then this would be the preparatory process for having a replacement in that office. And it is wrong when some individuals begin behaving in a manner that almost suggests that they are immortal. They cannot fall sick, and if they fall sick, people should keep quiet about it. I don't know whether when such a person falls sick and you report that he is sick, Mheshimiwa Ndaragwa would say that you are also sick because you are now the one who is reporting to the country that...
No, it's a factual statement. Remember the one who was reporting was not quite factual.
The things of facts and fiction are on a continuum, and at some point they are gray areas. You can't be even very sure that this is where facts end and this is where reality begins. But finally, President John Pombe Magufuli and his style, he has created in Tanzania an environment of fear, so that even those who should be telling the public about him are afraid. They don't know what could happen to them in the aftermath of all this. And therefore, we even saw the other day that the Prime Minister was telling Tanzanians that the president is well, is in his office and working, and which is very unfortunate that in the 21st century such things should still be happening.
You remember, yes, but you remember sometimes, I think on the 7th, 8th month of being in the COVID season, there were those academicians who said that this is likely to define leadership. This COVID is likely to define leadership and perhaps the kind of governance we should embrace going into the future. And I think there we are. I don't want to say, but the management of COVID in Tanzania must be the one causing all the confusion that they are in. They don't know whether their people are dying of COVID or chagamoto ya kupumua, these kind of things. And unfortunately, this affects your neighbors. I mean, how we behave when we are near, it's really unfortunate. And I can tell you, I don't want to say this when I'm this far from Tanzania, but I have nothing to admire in the style of leadership of President Magufuli during this COVID time. It is a thing that you cannot tell us that you take some conclusions, you put yourself in a steam bath. Some very...
It's an old Tanzanian thing. When you read about the Maji rebellion, then you'll come across a certain Kinjeketile who was telling the people of Tanzania that if you just bathe in this concoction, you can go and walk into the German bullets. And they will just... He's
replayed it in the 21st century in such a poor manner. And I believe that is a confusion
but don't you
that is now
him?
there.
Remember, he speaks of, he even says, when they come to buy stuff from us, let's rip hard from them, because while they were busy locking themselves down, we were busy working on and tilling our fields, and here we are. We have the fruits of our labor.
Well, we can see what the
fruits of the labor are. Okay.
There's nothing. I just wanted to remind you of Kibaki. When you were breaking away from the fear at a Moi, where you couldn't even say Moi had a cough because you're likely to serve some sentence, some time in prison. Kibaki comes out of Nairobi hospital with a body and says, piga picha, onyesha hawa. Well, I think these are some of the board things.
But let's be fair to the late Mzee Moi.
I also wanted to say something that, but also we have examples all over, and I don't like the one I'm seeing from the US, because the current president seems to be losing a little bit of age is weighing heavily on his ability to remember things, unlike when he was a senator. That is again being covered up by the media. It's not being exposed. Maybe that is the deep state that he was talking about, but it's not being exposed. So some of these things, of course, with some measure, when it needs to be managed, but I believe that we should know the full disclosure of where our leaders are and their state of health.
All right, we're being fair to President Moi.
President Moi, there was a time, the 90s, I forget which specific 90, maybe it was around 1995, 96, when he disappeared from public space for a while. And when you are the kind of leader who is always in public space, such as President John Pombe Magufuli, when you get out of that space for disproportionate periods, the citizens get worried. And people started speculating, where is the president? Where is President Moi? And some morning, he materialized from Harambee House, and he walked the whole length of Harambee Avenue with his entourage following in suit, and he addressed the media and said, mimi ni huyu, who is asking about where I am? Watu wanasema kwamba mimi ni mgonjwa. Here I am, and that put paid to
How we wish that Magufuli would do that.
Should come out. So
but you know, the tiniest of wisdom, is there, you know, some level of protection of the public that comes out of, you know, sometimes keeping off this information for a while until, I mean, because the likes of our senior counsel, Ahmed Nasir, argue that, you know, when time is right, the people of Tanzania will be told.
In badly managed countries, there is some merit to going into non-disclosure for a period of time, as you try to cobble, concoct, and put in place mechanisms that can allow for smooth continuity. But in a properly functional society that is properly managed and laid, there are mechanisms for automatic migration of authority from one entity to the next if one has failed. It's like aircraft engines up there. If this one fails, if this chamber is not working, you migrate to the next one, and you carry on until you land safely where you are supposed to be going. So Ahmed Nasir, senior counsel, also misleads himself and misleads the public, but he's not here. I would request you to invite him so that we can have that conversation.
I will invite him. I mean, he's also weighed in strongly on matters Kenya-Somalia maritime border issues, and the relationship between these two countries, or say Nairobi and Mogadishu, is deteriorating, and that is one thing that we need to be probably worried about based on how we're handling the scenario that plays out right now. That withdrawal by Kenya, the ramifications, was it a wise move?
I think I can only use the information that has been fed to us through the media, because I am not privy to any other information. And I agree. The issue of our boundary is a very serious issue. And any court that is considering a boundary between two countries must look at it from that point. And in the event of any request from any of the parties, I believe that the court should have a better listening capacity than what we are seeing from the ICJ. And the argument here is this, that we are not ready with our defense. So how on earth would you want a country to come before you to defend its boundary if they are actually telling you clearly they are not led with the defense?
How long have
what
we been
does
having
it take?
this?
It does not matter.
Okay.
How long has this country been created on this planet Earth?
All right.
And what would it cost us if we were to get into war? So we have to have all the patience, and we have to accord all these countries time and space so that if we can get an amicable solution to this issue, the better. The other thing is this: during these COVID times, we have seen, if you tell me that I am going to defend a client in court through Skype or Zoom, and the kind of difficulties we already have had with the judges, with the magistrates, because of communication, how do you present some kind of information? You have maps to give, and you are saying that the physical appearance will be limited because of the COVID times. I think this is an issue that can be postponed to a time when we can be able to function normally. So I totally agree with the position that has been taken by the country, by our government, and as Kenyans, I believe we should support it. And I believe that the international community is best listening to what we are saying, because again, if there's a feeling that the court is not going to be fair, again, I think they should reconstitute themselves.
And that's
this
the
is not an issue.
catch-22.
Yes.
The feeling that the court wouldn't be fair, also citing the fact that there's an existence of a judge from Somalia, Somalian judge, so to speak, but equally acknowledging the role of the Security Council, the UN Security Council, in equally, deliberating on this particular matter, and the interest and the fact that Kenya now sits in this particular office, just started the other day. I mean, how then do we get to strike a balance? Does it call for genuinely a scenario where we're going to have a gentleman's agreement, which we have cried for, or we've asked for quite a while, having not gotten that, approval, or from this side of Somalia? Because at some point Kenya has declared, yes, it's okay, they would be willing to sit down, for a gentleman's agreement, but such is not coming from Somalia.
See, it's not just about a gentleman's agreement, which myself and Mheshimiwa Jeremiah Kioni can reach on a matter of a civil nature.
Okay.
Like the banging of the tables. You see, I've changed my hands. I'm now holding my hands.
You can see we have had a gentleman's agreement.
Yeah.
And he has agreed that from now onwards he's going to watch.
I'm putting my hands there.
Relative to objects like tables. These are very heavy issues. They are very grave matters, because we are talking about state sovereignty. And we are talking, in fact, about resources that go with that state sovereignty. In this particular regard, they are even established to be huge deposits of petroleum gas in the space that is under contestation. While I'm not an expert on marine matters, marine laws, I'm aware that already there existed mechanisms of attempting to address that issue, and that before those mechanisms were concluded, it was wrong for anyone to begin exploiting the resources within that marine space that we are talking of. Somalia already started getting into agreements with some Western countries to start mining those resources. And remember that when they are doing this, Somalia also sometimes is a very ambiguous entity, especially when it comes to the institution of government. You do not know at some point whether it is what you would really call a legitimate people's government, or it is some warlords who have pushed themselves into the space of power and authority. That notwithstanding, an agreement was reached between Kenya and Somalia, and which was captured in writing, which is not a gentleman's agreement. It is a legally binding instrument that was entered. And the agreement stipulated, among other things, that this matter would be arbitrated through the entities of the African Union. And the process had not begun when the Somalia Parliament, howsoever it constitutes itself, decided that it would not accept that binding agreement, and therefore the matter went before the ICJ. Before the ICJ, what is Kenya's position? Kenya's position is number one, of course, that is our space, and which I believe to be true. I've said I believe, I've not said I know.
It is true, okay.
But I believe, honestly, that is Kenyan space. Secondly, that we have established more evidence that this is our space. And
Hold
we
it
would
right
like
there.
that evidence
to be.
Okay, I hold it.
Yeah, all right, after this break. At least we have an extra 15 minutes so that we can come and close on this issue.
They say the way to the heart is through the stomach. This month of love, Throwdown shares with you those amazing food ideas for that candlelit dinner and picnic date. Learn those dining etiquette and avoid those embarrassing moments every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. What's the perfect way to kickstart your day in the morning? Well, apart from having a healthy breakfast, the Morning Cafe is all you need. We will inform you on what's happening on the roads, dive deeper into the newspapers, alongside heated political debates.
What I have to fight the two. Order.
Yes.
Order.
Did you know that your greatest wealth is health?
Then we start eating right, and that's what I do in my clinic.
With some good Friday vibes. The Morning Cafe with Linda Alela, Monday to Friday, from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Only on TV 47. On the grind, we bring you different entrepreneurs who give the story of their businesses with love and passion.
I'm a musician forever. This is something that is inborn.
It excites me each day. It's a field that has always excited me.
Because when you show love to your business, it will show love to you.
From the last laps of the State of the Nation conversation this morning, as we get to a different one altogether later on, but not before we get to wind up on this subject of the row that stands between Kenya and Somalia, and equally the fuel prices. Still with me, Honorable Member of Parliament of Daragwa, that is Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, and Dr. Barrack Muluka, Communications Advisor. Barrack, back to you.
As I was saying before the interlude,
right.
Just two very quick things. Number one, that there is more evidence that Kenya would like to be presented before the court.
Yeah.
That evidence is being denied admission. Second, that we have other counsel that we would like also to be part of our representation, because Kenya believes that they are better seized of matters of marine laws, and that therefore they are going to present our case more solidly. That when you look at the challenge before us, it also pertains to historical borders as they were at the time of independence, and that the evidence that the country wishes to present before this international court would lend further credence to our claim. And therefore, when we get to a point where one country, together with the arbitrators, are saying that they will just go on regardless. Yes, it is true that the country asked for a delay before, but it's also true that during the period when these matters should have picked up again, the COVID thing came up, and it's a global thing. Never before in my life have I heard of the expression a global pandemic being applied. And we know that a lot of things went into go slow. People didn't know how long this thing was going to last. Sometimes I'm surprised today to hear people say things like, oh, during COVID, when COVID is there. It is a reality, and we must accept its impact in all these things. But very, very finally, Linda, we are talking about national, territorial sovereignty and integrity. It's not a matter to be rushed through a forum such as this. I have heard it said that if one party withdraws, then the other one can still go on and have the matter determined ex parte, as the lawyers.
So this would make the matter lose its legitimacy?
Then I think nation states reserve the right to explore alternative means and mechanisms of securing that space, whatever that may mean.
Wow.
Right. And we are dealing with International Court of Justice. And I believe that they should know why other countries of the world came together to establish that kind of a court. What is it that we were trying to avoid? We were avoiding taking it on between countries and agreeing that there can be an arbiter. And that arbiter must behave well for the legitimacy to exist. And here is a case where we have more, we've been allowed X number of members, perhaps call them lawyers, to present our case. But we have 4 more members than the COVID protocol. And again, like Dr. says, this is not it's not a small issue between 2 individuals. You're dealing with an issue between countries, and the absence of a peaceful coexistence, you're talking about war. So they should know what they are trying to avert between us and the Somalis. And I think it's important that all these things that are being asked of them by both Somali and, in this particular case, Kenya, are best if they are adhered to, addressed properly. Even within the judges, there are those who are already above the age allowed by COVID to sit in a bench. I mean, so they cannot, why they would want to rush into this, you cannot quite understand. There is an agreement that was entered back in 1979, and Somali agreed to that agreement on these issues of the boundary. It is that agreement that they want to move away from, and Kenyans have more demonstrations to do. There are more maps that will need to be presented to the court. There is more of evidence that you present because you are in the defense. The other one is just alleging this is our boundary. They have less of what, less of presentations to make. So I think it is important that the Security Council now steps in and tries to, bring some soberness into this. And I think it's important for us to also, state here. It is very clear. It's very important for us as Kenyans, the 43 tribes in this country, to look at this issue from a national point of view, from a point of sovereignty, from a point of integrity, from that point, and the fact that it is our country that others are interested in. It is a 42 square kilometer area that is rich with the kind of minerals that could change the lives of Kenyans if we start exploiting them. So thinking that we can allow this to just go, hiyo nayo ni michezo.
Well, all right, this is a question that is in court, and I guess just like we always say there, here in the country, we do not speak much about it, but we do not go without addressing that aspect. You brought a very pertinent point earlier on, Daktari, in regards to the role of the African Union to address this. Peace, sanity is what we want above everything. Probably that is what informed that conversation of, you know, people arguing if we can't deal with this, it doesn't really have to go to the ICJ. If we can't deal with it at the level of the African Union, then why can't we have a gentleman's agreement and, you know, just allow us to coexist in peace? Sometimes we look at the likes of Migingo and we get scared because it could be silent for now, but maybe in future, you know, it will be something that will be totally different. You know, all this drama will erupt, and so much so. So what then is left of the African Union, especially when there's a setup of courts within that are supposed to address some of these conflicts that sit within the, you know, the African continent? Why is it that we've not been able to get such?
The African Union, African states, increasingly are challenged to learn to approach issues from a solid African perspective, to learn to speak with one voice, to learn to create and position African agenda, and to learn to seek African solutions to African challenges. It's also a fact that quite often the union sleeps on the job. And this is because the union should have even sought to be enjoined in this matter as a matter that had already reached its chambers and which it is supposed to be arbitrating. Granted, of course, that the Somali parliament also has got its own sovereignty and that it can exercise that sovereignty just like the Kenyan parliament could and say that we do not wish to have it this way, let it be taken elsewhere. In which case, the Somali parliament is passing a vote of no confidence in the African Union. And one starts wondering why it should continue to remain in the union if it has no confidence in the union. And going forward, in fact, Kenya itself must start we must start asking ourselves why we would want to be members of the ICJ if we no longer have faith in the ability of the ICJ to arbitrate in conflicts of this nature. I would expect, Mheshimiwa from Deragwa, that Kenya's parliament is going to enter a motion of adjournment to discuss a matter of very significant national import, and that we also take a position as the legislators, the representatives of the people, the lawmakers of the country, and advise the president and the executive that going forward, we perhaps should reconsider our presence in ICJ.
Well, ICC has been a factor.
And when we do that, we must also seek to get some of our brothers and sisters across the continent to also disengage. But when we deal with Somalia,
has been an issue, you know, for quite a while now. Though we cannot delve into that because...
Yes, but allow me to say that when we deal with Somalia, as Barrack, I'm usually not quite convinced about the extent to which we are not dealing with a rogue entity.
Okay. We're being too lenient for that matter. All right, as a country. As we close on that one.
As we close on that one, let me say that we cannot spend our money, our taxpayers' money, to stabilize Somalia, only for them to turn back and try and destabilize us. We've lost our young people trying to help them become a country. We have used a lot of our money. They have slowed our development agenda in this country. It is very unfair. In fact, it's really dishonest on their part for them to be seen to be really looking for every opportunity to destabilize our country. And I don't know how much they think they can move in that direction.
All right, we can only wait and see what plays out as we close, gentlemen, in about 3 minutes or 4 minutes thereabout. New fuel prices shock Kenyans. Are you as shocked, Dr. Barrack?
No, I'm not shocked. I could be shocked only to the extent that I cannot afford the fuel, and shocked to the extent that my pocket is a lot more challenged, and I've got to start thinking about my choices very carefully, because this is going to affect everything else that I need. It's going to influence the cost of food, the cost of movement, the cost of all other essentials. But I am not shocked by the decision. It's just about a month when we were here, and some of these prices had gone up by, I believe, as much as 8 shillings. And now it's gone up again
by 7 now.
By 7 bob, right, which makes it 15 shillings within the space of 2 months. And on the 14th of next month, it's likely to go up again. It is testament to our irresponsible choices as a nation. Within the institutions and forum of decision making, we do not know how to prioritize our spending agenda, and that is why we are here. The citizens have inured themselves to hardship. It doesn't matter. This price here could even be doubled, and Kenyans will complain and whine around for a few days. But they will take the blow and move on. I don't know how far this could go on, but the decision has not shocked me. We need money for BBI campaigns. In fact, one of the reasons some people are complaining about Karanja Kibicho is basically because they were expecting to have money in their pockets to run around the country promoting the BBI. And Karanja Kibicho represents a state decision to say, let us do this differently. He has not taken that decision himself. He's not my blood brother or my crony whom you can say that I am defending because of other assets. It's basically because it is true. But even as he tries to be abstemious in that regard, it's also true that we are a spendthrift economy, and this ends up in your pocket every day.
Sadly, our EPRA has at least projected the changes, but such has not happened in the likes of electricity and all that, and you can be rest assured that it's pretty much high right now. When you buy tokens, let's speak in the language of Kenyans, when you bought tokens somewhere in January, in February, and now the other day you just bought tokens somewhere in March, you realize that there's a huge difference. The same amount of money would give you way lower amounts of tokens in comparison to what was there back then. That is to tell you that, well, this has been projected, but there are very many things that weigh in heavily into the pockets of Kenyans that have not been spoken about. What do you make of this?
On the way to this one, let me also say that I think those who are fearful of taking a position of no towards the BBI must be suffering from the same things like Daktari has said of inability to access resources from some quarters, and their fear of wanting to be seen, of wanting to spend money must be the one that has forced them not to take a position on the document and to remain in the watermelon scenario, where you cannot quite say
Where they
where they stand, and they are likely to remain there until we do the voting.
Yeah, as we conclude.
But I think we need to differentiate between the cost of the cost of this increase and the solution that we may want to suggest from the government.
Okay.
And I believe that the prices that during Kibaki's time, we came up with the regulatory authority that sits allowed every 14th of the month to decide what is going to be the price of oil in the coming month. Before that time, it was left to the markets, and we saw those in the oil industry forming cartels and increasing fuels just to milk Kenyans. Unlike then, today it is done in response to the markets, the prices, the group of prevailing market prices. So when we see our prices go up, it's not because our taxes have been increased.
Right.
No, the taxes remain the same. Only that the prices that, the amount of money that we are paying to get the oil into the country is much higher, as dictated by OPEC and the rest. But let me say, can I also say, well, yeah, let me say this. I saw this coming way back in October. I think it was October or November, when we had the U.S. elections. And U.S. had, during the Trump period, U.S. was the biggest producer of oil in the world. Within 4 years, they had shot to that level because they were doing drilling and the rest I think in Texas and other states. But the coming of Biden into office, they then come and say, because of the issues of global warming, climate change, they say the way we were drilling our oil in our country is not in keeping with the issues of climate change and the global warming, as a result of which we are now cancelling the production of oil from the US. A huge chunk was taken from the market. The only thing that can happen is the prices go up because the supply has been reduced. Okay. And these are the things that are now hitting us as a country. But having said that, it's now a question of saying, then how should the country cushion Kenyans?
Yes,
and I think that is the issue that that's where we now need to put the country or the government to task. They need to cushion Kenyans against these very heavy taxes that is certainly going to come with inflation and the rest. And many solutions will have to be suggested.
Right.
And I believe it is also an issue that at the best of days, we could take up and Parliament suggest what, and we are also doing the supplementary budget, perhaps a time where we can make intervention measures to try and cushion Kenyans against the very high, heavy, these steep prices. So it has really nothing, absolutely nothing to do with BBI.
Oh.
And yes, it has completely nothing to do with BBI.
Everything.
Let me finish. Because again, it's a statement that is not factual, but it is one of the propagandist statements that you can see it being peddled around. You see it in social media. But it is this has everything to do with the prices that are preferring across and dictated to us by OPEC. Remember, we don't produce
15 different
oil,
taxes that pertain to the fuel amount that you pay at the pump. 15 different taxes.
Some of them that are local, actually.
Yes, and
some of it is
95% of them are local.
And
I expect the elected leaders of the people to protect the people against overtaxation. It is not true what Mheshimiwa is saying, that the taxes have not changed. You know, a tax is levied on a base that there's so much money that we are taxing.
Right.
And therefore the quantum increases. This money eventually goes into the tax kitty, it goes to the national exchequer, and it is eventually channeled out to go to the BBI.
Dr. is being very economical with the truth.
This is
our tax is still a fixed percentage. It's still a 16%. We haven't changed it.
16%
it's 16% of whatever it is that we are selling. At the point at which Parliament can intervene, we will need to do a law and change that percentage. So he's not being honest to Kenyans. It could be downwards, it could be upwards, but he's not being. He's not being honest.
16% of 200 is 32.
32.
Now
okay,
you
we'll
see,
mix it down.
so
can you allow a statement that will carry on with your level of education and also your age?
We'll start having the
It is a percentage. No, it is a percentage. It's a percentage of X. When the prices go up, of course, the government corrects more.
Okay.
But it is not the government that is pushing up the prices. Remember, it is OPEC. So what we will be expected perhaps to do as members of Parliament is to see how do you cushion Kenyans. That is only done in Parliament, not in a studio.
I don't know whether Kenyans.
It is not done in a public.
They were cushioned. They were cushioned last year after COVID.
There you come, leader. Whenever you do a deduction in taxes in this country, it never goes to the mwananchi. Yeah. It is left with the Akina Barrack in Nairobi.
Barrack is not mwananchi.
This is a dynasty. It is left with the dynasties here in Nairobi. So the kind of cushioning, that needs to be done needs to be really understood, because I wouldn't want to go through the cushioning we did in COVID.
Yeah.
Nothing went to the ordinary mwananchi.
Nothing.
It was left with the business people who sell the same products that we give. They never allowed the ordinary Kenyans to benefit. So when we get to Parliament, the kind of cushioning that needs to be done, and I want to say that, fortunately, I think we will be considering the supplementary budget in the coming weeks.
Okay.
An opportunity for us to make intervention measures, perhaps, to help ordinary Kenyans.
All right, we're looking forward to that. Honorable Member of Parliament, Ndaragwa, that is Jeremiah Kioni, Communications Advisor, Dr. Barrack Muluka. It got me having a tongue twister. Thank you so much for that. I look forward to see you again. After this break, we get to a different conversation altogether. Thank you.
They say the way to the heart is through the stomach. This month of love, Throwdown shares with you those amazing food ideas for that candlelit dinner and picnic date. Learn those dining etiquette and avoid those embarrassing moments every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. What's the perfect way to kickstart your day in the morning? Well, apart from having a healthy breakfast, the Morning Cafe is all you need. We will inform you on what's happening on the roads, dive deeper into the newspapers, alongside heated political debates.
I have to fight the order.
Yes.
Order.
Did you know that your greatest wealth is health?
Then we start eating right, and that's what I do in my clinic.
With some good Friday vibes. The Morning Cafe with Linda Alela, Monday to Friday, from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Only on TV 47. On the grind, we bring you different entrepreneurs who give the story of their businesses with love and passion.
I'm a musician forever. This is something that is inborn.
It excites me each day. It's a field that has always excited me.
Because when you show love to your business, it will show love to you.
The most rewarding bit of being a photographer is seeing a bride able to see her images of her wedding and evoke emotion in her and just relive the moment once again.
Get to hear these stories and so much more every Monday at 7:30 p.m. On Coffee with Movie, we bring you great testimonies from amazing personalities.
Mwanzo wa kwanza alikaa ndani ilikuwa intense cause alikuwa alikuwa atafuta place atawaka akifanya thesis zake.
Stories that will inspire and encourage you.
Hiyo kitu ilisha usoni clap. Sheila told us this is what we've been looking for.
And some that will even make you laugh out loud.
You have ya kutuliza temperature kabla hiyo story.
Na wewe kuleta mandazi bro.
Umeona ingeandikwa coffee and mandazi.
Aya!
Make sure you catch the episodes of Coffee with Movie every Sunday at 8 p.m. They say the way to the heart is through the stomach. This month of love, Throwdown shares with you those amazing food ideas for that.
So 30 minutes or thereabout, we have a dental surgeon on board, that is Dr. P.J. Muriuki. We had a conversation on matters demystifying dentistry. It's a tongue twister, so allow me to get it all wrong at some point. And it was just about oral care, or it's oral care, Dr. right? Yes. It was very important that we had this discussion. We did, actually, but we're not able to expound so much. So one, on the questions that you had sent, and equally, technically, everything that we'd probably want to know about this. And so, due to public demand, we decided to have this conversation again. If you missed out on the other one, you can always grab the same on our social media platforms, #MorningCafe. You'll definitely get the link. Yes, our Twitter handles, our Facebook handles and all that, TV47 Kenya. You go there and you'll definitely get to see what we had in terms of a conversation back then. But back to the conversation, we have it a bit different with Dr. Muriuki, that is in regards to the same. First, answering the questions that we left hanging and equally expounding some more on what you have asked. So, karibu sana once again, Dr.
Thank you so
I remember the other time we had this conversation, we left it at a point where we were discussing the root canal,
yes,
and so much. So probably just a brief reminder in regards to that.
Yes.
That is in regards to filling and root canal, as we proceed to the next questions that we had.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Again, our viewers, I remember we talked about the difference. I think the question was, when
the
should
difference
I have
between yes,
a filling, when should I have a root canal?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it's not the patient's options. That's what we said. It is dependent on the level of decay of your tooth.
Okay.
So if the decay is, you remember we said the tooth has 3 layers. So if the decay is within the first 2 layers, then you can do a filling. It means the infection has not reached the nerves. But if the infection has reached, the center of the tooth, which is the nerves, and at that particular point you find you are experiencing pain and sometimes swelling,
mm-hmm,
that is the time that you have a root canal. So basically, root canal means it is the real term is root canal treatment or root canal therapy.
Yeah.
So it means it's where the dentist will go into the center of the tooth, what we call the engine of the tooth, mm-hmm, where you have the blood vessels and the nerves, Then, because the infection has gone all the way to the roots, they use some special equipment to remove the infected nerves, plus if there is any pus or any infection that is down to the roots. So once they remove all those things that are inside the roots, it's like disconnecting the root, the tooth, that particular tooth, from the nervous and the blood vessels of the body. So it is there, still in the mouth, but it is disconnected from the nerves and the blood vessels in the body. So after that, of course, they can't leave that space where they cleaned out empty. They usually do what we call obturation. Basically, it's using a special material to replace to put in the place where they remove the nerves, and finally now they do the filling. Then before we finish with that, after every root canal, it is very important for you to have a crown done. Because part of the questions that I saw is, why is it that I had my root canal done and it doesn't pain, but it just cracks and crumbles? It's because after root canal, basically what you've done is you've disconnected the tooth from the nervous system and the blood vessel. So most of the time you find that tooth is very, very brittle. So it can easily break up. Second thing, it doesn't have any nerve connection. You see, if you don't have any nerve connection, it means you don't feel pain. So sometimes you may subject it to a lot of force without you knowing. And lastly, by the time you're doing a root canal, it means the cavity was very big. So whatever you are using to restore or to put a filling there, you might find the filling is bigger than the remaining tooth structure. So, and structurally, that tooth cannot survive. And that is why it is important to put a crown. A crown is like a cup, So when now you are eating, the force is removed from the tooth and the filling, it is being taken up by the crown.
All right, so that means after a root canal, is it like a permanent process, or then again you have to go and probably have a checkup and a review and maybe another filling or something of the sort?
No, a root canal should be, if well done, because again, and I think it's one of the questions about quacks, if it is not well done, it's not going to work. It can't work. You will still continue having pain and the infection will not go. You might continue having swellings and all those things. So, but if a root canal is properly done, and then structurally, we take care of it in terms of making sure that it has a crown, then you just need to go for yearly checkups, just to make sure that everything is okay. But ideally, you shouldn't have pain. You shouldn't, be having any problem. You should be okay. Yes.
Okay, let's talk about tooth decay, or not really decay actually, brown teeth. I don't want to call that tooth decay. It's actually brown teeth, which is very common. Well, sometimes you're told, ukitoka hizi sides za Naivasha, I don't know, when you take a lot of salty water and all these stories that we get to hear. Fluorosis, just what exactly causes that? And is there a scenario where the same can be reversed? Is there a scenario where the same can be avoided?
Excellent. That's a very good question, and I'm happy that our audience was able to ask that. Now, brown teeth. There are two things we first need to get out of the way, just to get us into perspective. The first thing is dental fluorosis is a condition where the teeth become stained. So the teeth become stained permanently. So it is, you remember you said the teeth has 3 layers. The dentine, that is the middle layer, and the enamel become stained and they appear brown. It is what we call intrinsic stain. Intrinsic meaning it is within the composition of the tooth. Now, what causes fluorosis? Fluorosis is caused by high fluoride content in the water that we drink. Now, you'll find that fluorosis, it happens from a particular time to a particular time. So it's not something that can hit you along the way. It actually happens from the time the teeth start developing. That means when you're in your mother's womb. So it means if, for example, your mom took water with high fluoride content, and most of this water you find is from borehole. A source, the source is mostly from borehole water, or places where, like in the Rift Valley, where you have very high fluoride content.
Okay.
So if they take that water when you are, in your mother's womb, that will affect you.
Oh.
Okay? It will cause what we call dentofluorosis, because when you are still forming in your mother's womb, also the teeth form. Okay. So it means if she consumes water with very high fluoride content, it will affect your teeth also. As a matter of fact, fluorosis affects you from 0 to around 8 years, because that's when the teeth are forming.
Okay.
Okay. So what happens is the fluoride, we all know teeth are made of, calcium, most of the content is calcium phosphate and all those other minerals. So it's a reaction that happens where we have, instead of now calcium being laid down, it is substituted by
So that
fluoride.
means even at that level, when you lose your teeth, is it lose or what?
Yes. Exfoliation.
Exfoliation?
Yeah.
And that one is that one we do not probably need to know as such.
Yes.
So in such a scenario, still the new teeth or the new tooth that would crop up would still be affected?
Yes, it depends with the time that you are affected.
Okay.
So if, for example, you have, it's when you are in your mother's womb, that's when, she took the high fluoride content water. You find even the milk teeth themselves when they, because they form around that time, that's when they'll get affected. If it affects a baby who is around 2 years, that's when the permanent teeth are forming beneath the milk teeth. So inside the bone, that's when they are forming. So it depends with when, is it a continuous exposure? If it's a continuous exposure, you'll find both milk teeth and the permanent teeth will be affected.
Okay.
If it's a spat, which means it's a particular period where you get exposed, it means the teeth that were forming at that particular time are the ones that will get affected. And again, the severity matters. I mean, it determines, the severity of the disease is determined also by the extent and the concentration of the fluoride exposure. So we classify fluorosis into mild, moderate, and severe. So in mild, you find the person has what we'd call chalky white teeth. They are white teeth, but it's not your normal white teeth. They look like chalk, So that's a mild form, and they might have some spots, some brown spots or something like that. So that's the mild form. The moderate form, you find that now there is some more staining of the brown, and now you have some more extent of the pitting. So you find like the teeth have some hole and they look like they want to, slow off. The third one is now the severe form. The severe form is now what we call brown teeth. The teeth, all of them look brown. The top layer, I think like the picture that we had seen there, the top layer, that is the enamel, starts, even coming off, and the teeth really look unsightly.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, that can be reversed. I have been told a couple of times that you either wash them, and then they're clean. And sometimes, there are people who come and they smile at you and they're like, "You've not seen the difference?"
No, it cannot be reversed.
Is it so?
It's a permanent process because, like I said, it is within the composition of the teeth. However, there is a difference between reversing and managing. It can be managed. Okay, so there are many ways of managing, and for most people, the management is aimed at two things. Number one, achieving function, and number two, aesthetics. Okay, function, because you find when you have fluorosis, those teeth are usually very sensitive because the top layer is usually damaged. So there's a lot of sensitivity, and sometimes they're not able to eat, especially where the top layer keeps peeling off. So you need to manage in terms of making those teeth, so that the patient is able to feed properly.
Right.
Second thing is, of course, aesthetics, and this is now where most people are concerned, especially if the front teeth are affected. So the brown discoloration can be masked.
Okay.
Okay, and the management is now what people call whitening. Okay,
all right,
whitening those teeth. Now, in terms of whitening, it depends again with there are many types of whitening in the teeth. Number one, you can do what we call laser bleaching. So this is where you use some special chemical and light to whiten the teeth, basically to remove those brown stains. But again, it doesn't work for everyone. That's mostly for the mild to the moderate. For the severe form, where the whole tooth is affected, what you need to do is now either do crowns, and I think I had shown some picture of a crown.
Okay.
So a crown is like a cap.
And then you place it, all right.
So
there
you just
go.
place it on the tooth. So those are just crowns that are meant to go into a patient's mouth. But you can imagine now.
Do they affect the functionality of the teeth in any way?
No. Actually, just, as you can see now, for example, it's something that is, we prepare the tooth, we take impressions. Those are the impressions that we usually take.
Okay.
Then we send to the lab, and then they fabricate crowns that are specific, custom made for you. So when you put them on, it does two things. Number one, it makes the teeth, achieve their normal color.
Okay.
Normal color. Then the second thing is the structure, the morphology of the tooth is also restored.
Ah.
If you saw the first picture, they looked brown.
Right.
And number two, they had some peeling that had come off.
Okay.
So now the crowns, once we sit them in, it makes the teeth now look white, and they also, achieve the normal contours, and the patient is
so
able
over
to
time
function.
you lose the crown? And
No, you don't.
You just still
it's supposed to be
maintain it.
permanent.
So which is the best option out of all this?
It again depends with the severity of the disease.
Okay.
So should it be
But
mild?
they don't have long-term effects in any way?
No, you see, again, and this is where I want to really insist. This thing has to be done by a professional.
All right.
There's so many people, you see, tunasafisha meno, we clean brown teeth, and they have stickers all over.
There like no one's
Those are just quacks. What they normally do is they go and use some acid and burn your teeth. You see, if, for example, you use acid even on a piece of cloth, it turns white.
Yes.
So they use that acid on your teeth. So to you, you may think that the teeth have turned white, but actually what the damage that they've caused, even those teeth become non-vital, meaning they are no longer living because they've been damaged. Also the effects on the gum, they sometimes burn the gum. You find even the gum starts turning white. So people have to be very careful. They are all over in the streets saying we clean brown teeth, but they actually use acid, to just, they give you some temporary, satisfaction because you see they look white, but the long-term repercussions are very, very bad.
But you see now, how do you get to know that this is a real, dentist? This one is a quack, obviously. Now that's a sad thing.
Now it's we are alive to the fact that we live in a country where there are so many people purporting to be, professionals that they are not. First of all, the people who are supposed to manage patients, they are called dental surgeons. You have to have qualified with a bachelor's degree in dental surgery. That's the bare minimum.
Okay.
Then from there we have other specialties within dentistry where you can go and specialize, cosmetic dentistry, prosthodontics, pediatrics, all those things. So the bare minimum for you to start seeing a patient is a bachelor's degree in dental surgery. Now, where can you find these people? I mean, Kenyans, sometimes we have this habit of always liking private hospitals. And I normally say, the best place to have this done, or at least where you can get a doctor, is a public hospital, because there's no way the government would employ a quack, right? And even when you go there, unfortunately, some of our facilities, actually most of our facilities are not able to do these things because the human resource is not well facilitated in terms of the equipment and all those things. But that's a good place to start because you'll have the information. There are places like the University of Nairobi Dental Hospital. There, it's very cheap. It's a government hospital. That's where dentists train. So it's a good place to go. There's Kenyatta, there's Mama Lucy Hospital. There are so many other public hospitals. The problem with Kenyans is we like going to private, but the private you are going to is not up to scratch. So if you cannot afford to go to a good private hospital, you'd rather just go to a public hospital because these guys you find on second floor and downstairs it's a bar, daktari wa meno, all those people, they just mess people up. And the attraction is they're also very cheap because when you're not a professional, you have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose, and it's very sad because we've even lost patients. Mtu anakuja, when I was in Kenyatta and also Mama Lucy, we always dealing with complications from those places. Some dingy places where there are people purporting to be dentists. Mtu anaenda tunang'oa meno.
And in fact, they tell you that meno ni kung'oa in most cases.
Yeah, because there's nothing else they know. There's nothing else they know. All they want to do is just harvest teeth. It's like they have an order somewhere, So
are you saying that the meno sio kung'oa?
No. Let me ask you a very simple question. God forbid something happens and you hurt let's say your finger.
Okay.
You are chopping some kales or something and then you cut your finger. Then it starts bleeding and all that. You rush to hospital. How would you feel if the first option the doctor tells you is let's chop the teeth, let's chop off that finger. That's the same thing. The same way a tooth is part of your body. God made us. God made us the same way you are made with 5 fingers. You intend to go back to God with 5 fingers. God intends us to go back with all the teeth. So sincerely, there are many ways of managing teeth. The extraction should be the last option. But now you find, because most of these quacks, there is nothing else they can do. And even those extractions, they don't do them properly. So they go there and the only thing they know how to do is just to remove the tooth, which is really sad because, removing teeth disfigures you. Teeth have very many functions, including speech.
Right.
You've seen shows that they can't pronounce some words.
That's true.
Then, even the facial profile. You find when teeth are supposed to maintain and support your cheeks.
Right.
So if you lose teeth, you start dimpling. We all know our grandparents, how they look without teeth. And even aesthetics, and nutrition.
And eating, nutrition,
nutrition, eating starts from the mouth.
Right.
If you don't have teeth, it means then you don't have a choice of what you eat.
True.
You just can't, you can't have good nutrition. So really, extraction of a tooth should be the last option. Last option.
All right. Bad breath.
Yes.
Probably that would be the most important one before we close it, in relation to teeth or tooth formation.
Yes. Good. That's a very, again, relevant question, because bad breath affects very many people.
Yes, it does.
There is one time that someone was telling me, I've been wondering why I win arguments so fast,
Oh, okay. Wow, that's painful.
Yeah, so they came to learn that people don't want to argue them so much because so bad breath has really affected many people. And again, we need to clarify. There is a difference between, actually the right word for bad breath is called halitosis. Halitosis, yes.
All right.
So it is a condition where you have persistent bad smell coming from your mouth. The key word is persistent.
Okay.
But then there is also what we call the morning after breath.
Okay.
This is the breath that you wake up with after sleeping.
Which should be normal?
Yes, there is usually some funny breath that you wake up with.
Yes.
But then that is temporary. The key word here, between halitosis, that's bad breath, and the morning after breath is that the morning breath is usually temporary. Like you brush your teeth or you eat your breakfast, it's okay. But bad breath is persistent. Now, bad breath can be caused by many factors. So just to break it down, you can have what we call local factors, Then we can have systemic factors. Local factors means it is something within the mouth, that is causing you to have bad breath. So this can be because you have gum disease. See the way you have bad, discoloration of the teeth, some chunks of things coming out from the teeth. That is called gum disease. It's the major contributor of bad breath. Then you can have cavities, when teeth are decaying. When you have those cavities, there's a particular breath that comes out. And most people say, I was brushing and then I smelled, there's some funny smell that is coming from the tooth. Or I was flossing, then the floss, just smells too bad. It is because most likely there is a cavity somewhere. So a cavity can cause, gum disease can cause. Then you find that there are other things still within the mouth, even as simple as the tongue. You know, when you eat, you're supposed to brush your tongue also, so that can also cause you to have bad breath. Okay? There are foods that we take, things like, let's say something that has a lot of garlic or onions, you know, those can, you know, continue giving you bad breath.
Okay.
So all these are local factors within the mouth. Even things like tonsils, tonsillitis. There are people who get some very, they are called, there are some stones that come from the infected tonsils. They are whitish in color and they smell very bad. So that can also cause you bad breath. So all those are within the mouth. And that is the most common cause of bad breath. There are other factors we call systemic, meaning it is something happening elsewhere in the body, okay, which is making you to have bad breath. So this includes systemic diseases, you know, like someone who has renal disease, they have a particular type of smell that comes from that. People with diabetes, you find we have what we call the ketone breath. It's because you have diabetes, and that's why sometimes we say dentists are very important, because the mouth is the window of the body. We can check at we can look at your mouth and we tell that there are other things that are happening. So all these are causes that can make someone to have bad breath. Also, there are other factors we call psychological factors. Okay. This is where, for example, you at one time probably you forgot to brush, or something was just happening, and probably your partner or someone, you found you're talking to them, they are looking away, you know, or someone told you have smelly mouth or something like that. So that affects you psychologically, and you always think that you have a bad breath. So the most important thing, like again we said, is once you have this experience, you need to visit the dentist. Most of the time it's as simple as cleaning your teeth. Okay, so you have your teeth cleaned, remove those stains and everything. Then also personal hygiene, brushing. You find most people don't brush their teeth. Or if they do, you find they just brush in the morning. The most important time to brush is at night, you know, because that's the time that you are sleeping. So when you are asleep, the bacteria are active because you're not talking, you're not eating, you're not doing anything. So they're having a party in your mouth, you know. So you need to, you make sure that you brush before going to sleep. So other things include, you know, if it's a cavity, it can be filled. Once it's filled, or it has a root canal done, then that should sort it out.
All right, that's good. In 1 minute or so, can we talk dental insurance? Or it's quite huge?
Not really. I think that's I don't know what probably they wanted to mean, but dental insurance, I think there is, I've had so many patients complain about the way the dental insurance is being handled, because you find they give you very little amount, you know, yet you know, they expect so many things to be done. So in our country, you find there are also so many restrictions in terms of exclusions. You find even things like cleaning of the teeth. You find some insurance don't want to approve that. And I think it is really absurd, because some of these preventative measures are really important.
I know, I have friends abroad that in most cases you're having a conversation with them, say, oh, tomorrow I'm going for dental checkup, like randomly, almost like after every month. You know?
Yes, actually that's the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to visit your dentist at least twice a year, or at worst once a year. Yeah, depending. Once you go the first appointment, they'll tell you, for you qualify for once a year. For you, we'll need to see you more because there's some work to be done. So it is really important, and that's a habit that Kenyans need to cultivate, because part of the reason why they say dawa ya meno ni kung'oa is because when they go to the dentist, it's only when they're in pain, and most of the time you find there's nothing
the pain
else.
Is out immediately,
and there's nothing else that can be done to that tooth. You know, it has totally broken down, so probably it's just some roots remaining that need to be removed. So it is good to cultivate that habit of visiting the dentist even before you have any symptoms, because then it becomes cheaper. Because, for example, if you come to the dentist and you just need a filling, it's very cheap, you know, probably. And now when you come when you're in pain and you have to have a root canal, the cost of a root canal is almost 4 times the cost of a filling. So it helps to prevent, and also it's good on your pocket.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. PJ Muriuki, for the great insights. I'm glad that today at least we've managed to touch on all the questions that were there. And that is not to mean that we won't have Daktari again. We'll definitely have him again, because like he says, you know, constant visit to the dentist, you know, is necessary and so much. So we'll take advantage of that and make sure that he's our constant dentist here. So at least we get the basics and we also get to learn. So at that point, we get to close it. Allow us to see some of these photos of Shosh. You know, Shosh is well known, and apparently Daktari tells me that he's the one who, you know, fixed that. Look at that. Oh, at that point, Hana Meno?
Yeah.
Complete. Oh, no, that can be so beautiful. Yeah. That is before and after. Yes. Wow. Well, I wish we had more time to talk about this, but all the same, thank you so much, Daktari. Some other time we will do that. Thank you so much for keeping us company. You've seen that it is possible. You still can look beautiful even if worse has come to worst. And so on that note, we close it and we say asante sana. I get to see you again tomorrow, same time, same place. My name is Linda Alela. Thank you so much, Dr. PJ. Thank you. Our pleasure.
Life asked Death, "Why people love me and hate you?" Death said, "You